Chapter 72, Reincarnation of the Great Power, the name of Guwen, 7th update. Elder Tian mentioned LV Xian, prompting the disciples to ask questions, wanting to know what kind of person this top genius was. Li Yi secretly noted down the name, determined to defeat LV Xian in the upcoming competition and prove his own talent. That night, the Third Medicine Valley was lively, even Elder Tian became talkative, laughing frequently. At dawn, Li Yi bid farewell to Guwen. "I'm leaving, wait for me to become famous." Watching Li Yi's departing figure, Guwen suddenly felt a bit envious. Li Yi was always so energetic and ambitious, while Guwen always thought a lot before doing anything, considering all factors. But thinking of Li Yi's miserable appearance when injured, his mouth couldn't help but turn up in a smile. Envy is fine, but don't imitate. After Li Yi left, the disciples of the Third Medicine Valley continued their work. With the territory expanding, daily patrols were needed. Guwen returned to Mystic Valley, checked each area, then flew towards Xianxia Valley. Along the way, he found a place to secretly convert 5 years of lifespan into cultivation, then continued on his journey. Arriving at Xianxia Valley, Guwen walked in from the valley entrance. As he climbed the hillside, he saw Yi Luyun and LV Xian sparring in a magical duel. LV Xian wore a red robe, his long hair flowing. At first glance, one might mistake him for a woman. He held a gourd-shaped fan and effortlessly countered Yi Luyun's sword strikes. The two of them moved back and forth in the air, evenly matched. Yi Luyun suppressed his cultivation, otherwise, LV Xian wouldn't stand a chance against him. Guwen couldn't resist performing a lifespan detection on LV Xian again. LV Xian, Core Formation Realm, First Layer 75/480/4900. He reached the Core Formation Realm at 30, but his cultivation hadn't advanced in the 45 years since. If not for the impressive lifespan of 4,900 years, Guwen would find it hard to believe he was the Supreme Sect's top genius. Except for Ji Xiaoyu, who possessed a primordial Taoist talisman, LV Xian's 4,900-year lifespan was the most impressive talent Guwen had seen among the human race. LV Xian didn't seem injured, perhaps he cultivated some miraculous skill like Wuxia? Sun De, Sun Air, and Sun Sen rushed to Guwen, very happy because Guwen always brought them tasty treats. Although they were demons captured by Luo Hun, Guwen never belittled them, so they had a good relationship. "These are 5th-tier spirit fruits, you can only eat one each, don't fight over them." Guwen took out 3 large, crimson fruits the size of watermelons and placed them on the ground for the 3 monkey demons to pick. He then walked towards an area of the valley. Today was another harvesting day. With his Medicine Valley expanding, he now had the opportunity to pick herbs daily, which he thoroughly enjoyed. After he finished harvesting, Yi Luyun and LV Xian also stopped sparring and landed. Yi Luyun began evaluating LV Xian's performance, and LV Xian remained humble. "Senior Yi, when are you going to undergo tribulation?" "I'm waiting for you to challenge Sword Venerable Fudao," LV Xian asked expectantly. He spoke seriously, as if he truly believed Yi Luyun could defeat the Sword Venerable. Yi Luyun hesitated and said, "At most half a year. When the time comes, I will go to the Tribulation Crossing Valley of the Supreme Sect to undergo tribulation. As for challenging the Sword Venerable Fudao, let's talk about it later." Ever since he visited the Heavenly Repair Platform, he had given up the idea of competing with Sword Venerable Fudao. The gap was too great. Facing such sword intent, he couldn't muster any fighting spirit. LV Xian raised his eyebrows, his delicate face showing anticipation. He continued to persuade, "Give it a try, what if you win? Once you reach the Void Crossing Realm, your sword intent will naturally transform. You might have the strength to fight, and being the first to challenge Sword Venerable Fudao, even if you lose, you'll become famous." Passing by, Guwen wanted to retort. LV Xian really had a problem. Ever since he came to Xianxia Valley, he had been persuading Luo Hun to challenge the Supreme Sect's top gun, and urging the 3 monkey demons to challenge the nearby 3rd-tier Great Demon. It wasn't occasionally. Whenever he encountered someone, he would persuade them. If this guy truly loved fighting, Li Yi would have heard of him long ago. "I'll think about it." Yi Luyun frowned. Xian saw Guan and immediately approached, warmly putting his arm around Guan's shoulder, smiling. "Valley Master, I feel you're not ordinary either. Do you want to strive for the position of National Master? I can teach you spells, just say what you want to learn." Guan replied, "I've said many times, I don't want to strive for anything, I just want to grow flowers and plants." "How is that possible? As long as you're human, you have something you want to strive for." "Then what do you want to strive for?" "Naturally, to be the number one in the world." "Then why not spend the time you use to persuade others on cultivating?" "I don't need to cultivate. Sooner or later, I'll be invincible." "You're impressive then." "What a bragger. Daring to claim invincibility in front of me?" Guan suddenly had an idea and smiled. "I heard you want to participate in the 100 races competition. If you can win the championship, I'll learn your spells." "Really? Really? I didn't originally plan to participate, but since you said that, wait and see. I'll leave tomorrow." Xian finished speaking and walked towards his house. Guan watched his back, finding him hard to figure out. Luyun walked over and transmitted his voice. "Don't provoke him. Ever since he formed his core, he easily falls into dreams during cultivation. Sometimes he dreams of being an emperor, sometimes a sword emperor rampaging the mortal world, and even sometimes a demon emperor. According to him, he can reach the peak of the mortal world in every lifetime. What's wrong with him? Could he be a reincarnated great power?" Guan immediately stopped underestimating Xian. Better safe than sorry. This person might indeed have a remarkable background. The next morning, before Guan left, Xian had already departed, making Guan more eager for the 100 races competition. The Hidden Dragon List was a competition for geniuses under 100 years old. Who would be the top among Zhou Tongyu, Ji Xiaoyu, Lia, and Xian? Before Xian returned, Guan decided to elevate his cultivation level to the 9th layer of the unification realm, secretly competing with these geniuses' growth speed. By the time Guan returned to Mystic Valley, it was already noon. He sensed a familiar aura waiting in his loft. Along the way, he greeted Wuxin and then went upstairs. Entering the house, Guan saw Yilan sitting at his desk, holding a book. "Oh no." Guan closed the door and walked to the desk to take the book from her hand. He said seriously, "How can a lady read this kind of book?" Ever since the Outer Sects disaster, Yilan rarely visited him, spending most of her time training outside. Now, she had been promoted to a deacon in the law enforcement hall, holding a certain position and power. Yilan looked at Guan and smiled. "I heard from Zhenqin that you usually love reading this Green Hero travelogue, so I wanted to see what kind of book you like." "I don't know about that Supreme Secret Records. But don't listen to Zhenqin's nonsense. It's a slander. The Green Hero travelogue was left by my master. I haven't read it nor destroyed it, just kept it as a memento." "Really? When has your senior brother ever lied to you?" "Humph." Yilan took out a book from her storage bag and threw it on the table. Guan glanced at it and his eyelid twitched wildly. "Supreme Secret Records. Oh no, how did this book become so popular?" Yilan looked at Guan and said softly, "Senior brother, I used to think it was a coincidence when I saw the protagonist named Guan. But now, after flipping through the Green Hero travelogue, I feel it's not a coincidence. Tell me honestly, did you write the Supreme Secret Records?" "How is that possible? I don't write books. I only love growing flowers and plants." "Heh, do you think I'll believe you now?" "Senior brother, it's not that I'm telling you off, but if you want to read, couldn't you read something like Investiture of the Gods or Supreme Immortal Venerable? They're better than these kinds of books that disturb your Taoist heart." "I really didn't write it." Guan felt so wronged, it was all Shenzhen's fault. Yilan suddenly stood up, scaring him into taking a step back. She circled around the table, approached him, and raised her right hand. "Going to hit me?" Guan felt a headache. Luckily, Yilan didn't intend to hit him but to straighten his robe. She slightly lowered her head and said softly, "Senior brother, if you do like this kind of thing, I can find the dual cultivation method and accompany you." Guan saw her ears turning red. He quickly stepped back and shook off her hand, saying seriously, "Junior sister, Don't joke around. If you keep joking, Yilan looked up at him, burst out laughing, and covered her mouth. Look at you acting like I'm a flood or beast. All right, no more joking. I came because of another matter, concerning your disciple, Su Han. Yilan said seriously, her smile fading. Guan frowned and asked, "What's wrong with him? Do you know his ancestral swordsmanship called Hateful Heaven Divine Sword? I'm somewhat familiar. Is there a problem with this swordsmanship?" Yes, it's not his ancestral swordsmanship but a forbidden swordsmanship of the sword sect of the Great Yu dynasty, not to be passed on. Su Han frequently used the Hateful Heaven Divine Sword to kill enemies during his training outside. Eventually, someone recognized this swordsmanship, causing quite a stir. It's said that the sword sect is preparing to capture Su Han. That bad? Guan was shocked. Could Su Han, with his talent, cause such a commotion like a novel's protagonist? Yilan nodded and said, "I've hidden Su Han in the law enforcement hall, but if the sword sect comes, the law enforcement hall won't be able to protect him. After all, they are also a great sect, and the supreme sect won't offend the sword sect for an outer disciple." Guan thought for a moment and said, "They'll try to come up with something." Yilan comforted him, saying, "If you're afraid of trouble, just ignore him. You can't protect him forever. I'm telling you because I don't know his significance to you and fear you might regret it later." Guan nodded and praised Yilan for being considerate. Yilan didn't stay long. After she left, Guan transported himself to the Third Medicine Valley and went to visit Shenzhen. Since Shenzhen ruined his reputation, she had to help. Shenzhen had invited him to her cave before, so he knew how to find her. A stick of incense time later, Guan entered Shenzhen's cave. "What a rare guest, it's not often you come to me voluntarily," Shenzhen smiled. In her cave, she wasn't wearing a veil, revealing a stunningly beautiful face, sweet and charming. She was holding a brush dipped in ink, and when Guan looked up, he saw the walls covered with paper sheets. This woman, was she drawing? Guan quickly looked away and said, "My disciple has encountered a problem involving the sword sect of the Great Yu dynasty. Can you help?" "Sword sect? No problem, they must give face to our doubt on sect," Shenzhen said boldly. Guan then recounted the situation in detail. Shenzhen frowned and hesitated, saying, "It seems there's a bit of an issue." Chapter 73. Perhaps you are a genius. Mad swordsman wants to pass on magic. Is there a problem? Guan couldn't help but roll his eyes and said helplessly, "Next time, wait until I finish speaking before making a decision. Aren't you giving me hope only to extinguish it with your own hands?" Shenzhen shook her head and said, "The problem doesn't come from the sword sect, but from the Dao Tian sect. The Hateful Heaven Divine Sword is not just a forbidden swordsmanship of the sword sect, it is a forbidden technique throughout the Great Yu dynasty. Every time the Hateful Heaven Divine Sword appears, there will be a bloody storm. 100 years ago, someone mastered the Hateful Heaven Divine Sword and killed tens of thousands of people. He was severely injured by our sect's elders and eventually fled the Great Yu dynasty. The Hateful Heaven Divine Sword is a swordsmanship that can break through heavenly destiny. The stronger the hatred, the stronger the sword intent. Even someone with mediocre talent can break through the limitations of their spirit roots as long as their hatred is intense enough. However, as the realm gets higher and the hatred deepens, it is easy to deviate and become a demon that only knows killing. Hence, the sword sect forbids anyone from practicing it." Hearing this, Guan couldn't help but ask, "In that case, why did the sword sect create such swordsmanship?" "It was created by a genius from the sword sect. Since he was from the sword sect naturally has the responsibility to handle this matter. They have destroyed all the sword manuals, but the Hateful Heaven Divine Sword keeps appearing. Perhaps that person scattered the sword manuals throughout the Immortal Cultivation world before he died," Shenzhen answered. Guan frowned. Would practicing this swordsmanship lead to madness in the end? If that were true, Guan couldn't let Su Han continue. He couldn't favor his disciple at the cost of bringing calamity to the Immortal Cultivation world. Shenzhen spoke earnestly. The various sects of the Great Yu dynasty all resist the Hateful Heaven Divine Sword. If you insist on protecting him, it will only bring endless trouble. There is another way. Make him discard the hateful heaven divine sword in front of the sword sect. But discarding the swordsmanship isn't just a matter of forgetting it. It requires abolishing his meridians and spirit root, turning him into a mortal. Guan nodded and said, I understand. He didn't say any more, bowed to Shenzhen, and then left. Shenzhen watched his departing figure, slightly shaking her head, not advising further. She believed what she had said was clear enough. The next day at noon, Guan arrived at the outer sect city. Last night, he invested 100 years of his lifespan from 10,000 miles away, significantly increasing his cultivation. The trouble caused by Su Han made him increase his daily lifespan investment, striving to reach the 9th layer of the unification realm as soon as possible. On the way to the Yilan mansion, Guan was contemplating the matter of Su Han. Su Han was his disciple. He had to help, but he couldn't help irrationally. Moreover, judging from Shenzhen's words, practicing the hateful heaven divine sword was not good for Su Han. It would eventually lead to madness. It was a painful path. Thinking it over, Guan decided to let Su Han choose for himself. He could only help him once at most. At the same time, he was pondering another issue. If he invested 10,000 years of his lifespan in the hateful heaven divine sword, could he research a way to improve it so that it no longer led to deviation? But that was a matter for the future. Even if he created it now, the sword sect wouldn't believe him. He couldn't demonstrate it himself, could he? He wouldn't fully expose himself for Su Han. Though they had the title of master and disciple, he didn't owe Su Han anything. An hour later, Guan and Yilan walked out from the law enforcement hall's gate. Since he is determined, brother, you shouldn't interfere anymore. No one in this world should be responsible for another person's life entirely. I will arrange for him to leave the supreme sect quietly, Yilan said. Guan nodded. He had negotiated with Su Han for a long time, but Su Han refused to give up the hateful heaven divine sword, even if Guan promised he wouldn't have to abolish his cultivation. Su Han still wouldn't give up. Su Han said that the hateful heaven divine sword was passed down by his father. It was the only connection between them, and he wanted to use it to avenge his father. After such a declaration, Guan could only give up. Thank you for your trouble. Guan nodded to Yilan. After a brief conversation, Guan left. Walking on the street, watching the bustling crowd, Guan felt quite emotional. Lu Jiojia had strayed from the righteous path for his own way and ended up crippled, now only able to cultivate the Taoist expansion skill in Mystic Valley with Wuxia, hoping for a chance to rise again. Su Han pursued revenge, willing to be at odds with the immortal cultivation world without regret. Guan was strong, but he couldn't decide the paths of everyone around him, nor could he change their thoughts. The mortal world was full of entanglements, all because of grudges and emotions. As Guan pondered, he seemed to gain an understanding, entering a marvelous state. Unknowingly, he arrived at the heavenly repair platform. He accidentally bumped into someone, quickly coming back to his senses. Sorry. Guan quickly apologized, filled with surprise. It was his first time falling into such an engrossed state. He hadn't encountered such a state when inheriting cultivation techniques or spells before. Recalling it, he couldn't explain it clearly, but he felt a slight change within himself. Were you comprehending the path just now? The person Guan bumped into suddenly asked. Guan looked at him. It was a man in green clothes with a weathered face, carrying a sword box with 3 sword hilts protruding from the top. Guan instinctively used lifespan detection. Han Ming, 5th level of Void Crossing Realm 587/1902/2780. This person also cultivated the energy concealing technique. The immortal cultivation world was full of tricksters. Guan asked in surprise, "What is path enlightenment?" "I was just thinking about something." He thought to himself, it's better not to think about things while walking in the future, it might cause trouble. Han Ming fixed his gaze on him and said, "Path enlightenment is indeed thinking about something. In deep contemplation, one resonates with nature and the universe, entering a marvelous state. You don't need to apologize, I deliberately blocked your way. If you continued forward, you would have bumped into those great cultivators. Is path enlightenment amazing? But I didn't feel any change in my cultivation level, Guan asked, half true and half false. He pretended to be ignorant, but in reality he didn't understand path enlightenment. Han Ming turned around, looking at the words righteous path in the distance, and said, path enlightenment is very rare. It cannot be taught or predicted, relying entirely on one's comprehension and blessing. Some break through realms through path enlightenment, some create astonishing ultimate skills through it. I once comprehended the path and created my own swordsmanship. Although I don't know what you were comprehending, you will feel its benefits in the future. Thank you for your guidance, Senior. May I ask your name? Guan raised his hand and asked respectfully. Han Ming answered, I am Han Ming, from the Great Yu Dynasty. I came specifically to challenge Sword Venerable Fudao. Hearing this, Guan couldn't help but ask, how does Senior plan to challenge? Han Ming gathered his breath and suddenly shouted, I am Han Ming, a sword cultivator from the Great Yu Dynasty. I have come to challenge Sword Venerable Fudao's Sword Dao. 1 month from now, I will have a sword competition outside the city. If Sword Venerable Fudao wins, I am willing to carve my Sword Dao on the city walls for the disciples of the Supreme Sect to cultivate. If Sword Venerable Fudao loses or doesn't dare to come, I will add 2 more words next to the righteous path. This voice was earth-shattering, echoing throughout the city and spreading far, reaching even the disciples of the Third Medicine Valley, who all looked up. Countless gazes from the heavenly repair platform focused on Han Ming. Guan instinctively retreated, not wanting to be associated with Han Ming. However, Han Ming walked towards Guan. Don't come over. Guan was very helpless. Young friend, may I invite you to your residence to discuss path enlightenment? We can exchange enlightenment experiences. To be honest, I also want to comprehend the path again. Regardless of success, I will teach you my swordsmanship. Han Ming asked with a kind smile. In the distance, Zuolin, meditating beside Weijin, saw Guan and his eyes lit up. With his cultivation level, he could naturally hear Han Ming's words. Indeed, this kid is not simple. My previous intuition was correct. Zuolin wanted to get up but was held back by Weijin. Don't go looking for trouble. That Han Ming is not simple. He once killed a great cultivator in the divinity transformation realm with the cultivation of the nascent soul realm, shaking the world, and is known as the Mad Swordsman, Weijin said in a deep voice, staring at Han Ming with sharp eyes. Zuolin was stunned upon hearing this. Under the gazes of many, Guan could hardly refuse and nodded, then quickly left, followed closely by Han Ming. The cultivators on the heavenly repair platform started discussing Han Ming's name, and many had heard of him. His deeds began to spread quickly. The elders in the Void Crossing realm on the platform just glanced at Han Ming without stopping him. Guan thought for a moment and decided to take Han Ming to the Third Medicine Valley. Curious to see what would happen when Han Ming met Elder Tian. In silence, Han Ming followed Guan, not knowing what he was thinking. When they reached the Third Medicine Valley, Han Ming couldn't help but ask, does this 100-mile area belong to you? Yes, why? Guan asked back. Han Ming was silent for a moment, then said emotionally, I wanted to take you as my disciple, but seeing such a vast medicine garden means the Supreme Sect values you highly. I can't help but feel a bit disappointed. You just challenged me and now want to take me as a disciple? Guan complained in his heart but smiled and said, thank you for your kindness, Senior. I don't like fighting and killing or pursuing high cultivation levels, so I won't be your disciple. As they landed, attracting the attention of many disciples. In the distance, Elder Tian, napping under a tree, opened his eyes. Seeing Han Ming, his expression changed slightly, clearly recognizing him. Han Ming, however, didn't recognize him. They went upstairs and sat down. Han Ming began to talk about his path enlightenment process, and Guan listened attentively. Han Ming comprehended the path at the age of 200. At that time, he couldn't break through to the 9th layer of the core formation realm and thought his life would end there. He sat under a waterfall in a low mood for 7 days and nights, then he enlightened the path. After one night, his sword heart enlightened, and his sword intent transformed. Listening to his words, Guwen thought about the extreme lifespan concept. He wondered if path enlightenment could change the extreme lifespan. So far, Guwen hadn't seen anyone break through the extreme lifespan, although current lifespan often changed. Cultivators of different realms had their current lifespan increase with higher realms, but each major realm didn't have a standard lifespan limit, since lifespan was related to state, cultivation techniques, natural treasures, and so on. Like Li Xiandao, clearly in the divinity transformation realm, but some in the nascent soul realm had similar lifespans as him. Or Ji Xiaoyu, who had over 800 years of lifespan in the 9th layer of foundation establishment, comparable to Li Xiandao in the 8th layer of the divinity transformation realm. If a person was seriously injured, their lifespan would change accordingly, like Elder Tian and Lu Jiujia. People weren't just data, their values weren't fixed. He could only observe more. After Han Ming finished, he asked Guwen to talk about his path enlightenment experience. This time, Guwen didn't hide anything and honestly shared his worries, only leaving out the hateful Heaven Divine Sword. When he finished, Han Ming pondered and said, "Worrying about your disciples' safety, realizing you can't control others' destinies, that's your path enlightenment. You might be a genius. In a month, I will compete in a sword contest with Sword Venerable Fudao, and I might die. How about I teach you all my sword Dao within this month? What do you think?" Chapter 74. Breaking through the 9th layer of the Unification Realm Sword Transmission? Guwen instinctively resisted. He had already mastered the Taizong Divine Shocking Sword, Wood Spirit Sword technique, and even the hateful Heaven Divine Sword existed on his panel. There was no need to waste time and lifespan practicing other swordsmanship. After all, he could promote and upgrade his sword techniques through lifespan deduction. Why bother learning so many? Guwen pretended to be in difficulty. "Senior, I am not interested in sword Dao. To be precise, I am not interested in combat techniques at all. I don't even practice much in my daily life. Cultivating flowers and plants is my interest." Han Ming was momentarily stunned and then frowned. Guwen pretended to be panicked, explaining, "Senior, I did not mean to disrespect you. You can go out and ask around. All the disciples in the valley know my character. My spirit root qualification is limited, and rather than wasting my limited lifespan on the illusory goal of immortality, I might as well live comfortably and enjoy my 200 years. Han Ming looked at him in silence. Guwen did not say more. Could he possibly beg him not to teach? After a while, Han Ming sighed and said, "I finally understand why you easily comprehend the path. Your mindset has surpassed most cultivators. You have let go of obsessions and appreciate the myriad phenomena of the mortal world. Perhaps this makes it easier to perceive the true meaning of heaven and earth." The two continued discussing the Tao. Han Ming no longer insisted on teaching swordsmanship. They talked for a full day and night before Han Ming left. He planned to wander in the Supreme Sect to find a suitable inheritor. Guwen then recommended someone, Zuolin. Coincidentally, Han Ming also knew Zuijian, so he agreed to assess Zuolin. After he left, Guwen began patrolling the 3rd Medicine Valley. Elder Tian caught up, curiously asking, "Valley Master, that cultivator just now didn't seem ordinary, but his attire clearly indicated he was from the Great Yu dynasty. What was he looking for?" "He wanted to take me as his disciple and transmit his sword Dao to me." "Did you agree?" "How could I? If I agreed, wouldn't that be a betrayal of the Supreme Sect? Although my strength is lacking, I am loyal to the Supreme Sect." Guwen casually dismissed the idea, speaking so nonchalantly that Elder Tian could feel his sincerity. He didn't think Guwen was acting. He had been in this Medicine Valley for many years, and Guwen always took his tasks seriously, treating servant disciples earnestly. Apart from not loving cultivation, Elder Tian couldn't find a flaw in Guwen. Elder Tian began to accompany Guwen on patrol, inspecting the medicinal herbs along the way, as they chatted sporadically. During this time, Guwen inquired about Elder Tian's views on the master-disciple relationship. Elder Tian had lived for over 700 years. Guwen was interested in his life insights. Though he might not necessarily follow them, listening was always beneficial. Meanwhile, The news of Han Ming, the mad swordsman of Great Yu, challenging sword Venerable Fu Dao spread quickly through the supreme sect cities, sparking anticipation among everyone who heard it. Han Ming was a renowned sword cultivator, while sword Venerable Fu Dao was the most famous cultivator of the supreme sect at present. Who wouldn't want to watch their sword competition? Most importantly, the disciples of the supreme sect also wanted to witness the true appearance and grace of sword Venerable Fu Dao. Half a month later, when Guan arrived at Tianya Valley, he heard Luo Hun and Yi Luyun discussing this matter. This made Guan start to hesitate. Originally, he did not intend to participate. After all, the supreme sect had plenty of experts, and they would never allow Han Ming to destroy the heavenly repair platform. But now that the matter had escalated so much, if he did not go, wouldn't it tarnish his own reputation? No way. He needed to speed up his path to strength. Han Ming was a genius who killed enemies across realms. With his cultivation level at the first level of the unification realm and his ability to control a sword from afar, what if things went wrong? He had to reach the 9th level of the unification realm in advance. Seeing that Han Ming seemed like a decent person, Guan decided to give him a thorough defeat. Maybe Han Ming would have another epiphany after losing. In the dead of night, Guan kept flashing through the forest, covering 100 miles with each step. He was quickly distancing himself from the supreme sect, using the infinite traceless mystic heaven step. He felt guilty about constantly drawing on the supreme sect's spiritual energy. This time, he decided to break through in a place rarely visited by people. He aimed to break through to the 9th level of the unification realm in one go. Alas, the world was unpredictable. There were always interruptions to his plans and his pace of becoming stronger. After traveling nearly 20,000 miles, Guan finally stopped. Here, deep in the mountains, the forest was filled with dense demon energy and ghost energy. Guan sat down to meditate under a tree, immediately activating the lifespan barrier. He couldn't walk any further. Who knew where he might end up? Guan began investing 1,000 years of lifespan into his cultivation, successfully reaching the 2nd level of the unification realm, with Earth's spirit energy pouring into him. After that, he continued to invest another 1,000 years of lifespan. 1,000 years after another. By the time he reached the 9th level of the unification realm, he had invested a total of 18,000 years of lifespan. After reaching the 5th level, each level required 3,000 years of lifespan to break through, which was related to the spiritual energy in his environment. It was acceptable to him, considering that advancing from the 9th level of the Void Crossing realm to the 1st level of the Unification realm had cost him over 12,000 years. Seeing that he still had over 200,000 years of lifespan left, Guan felt joyful and began to enjoy the elevation of his realm. The forest trembled, and strong winds blew from all directions. Green waves of chi arose from the ground beneath him. Roar, a deafening roar resounded from afar. It was a demon beast howling. Guan was secretly alarmed. The aura of this demon beast was no weaker than the divinity transformation realm. Such a terrifying demon creature was hidden in this area. Fortunately, he hadn't come this far for his previous breakthroughs, lest he be eaten by a demon monster, which would have been extremely unfortunate. Soon, more demon beasts began to howl, one after another, their voices growing in number. The combined roars seemed to be capable of overturning the night sky. The night sky was filled with swirling dark clouds, obscuring the stars and the moon, making it unclear whether it was clouds or demon energy. At that moment, Guan felt as if he were in a demon domain or a magic realm. The howls and cries of demons and monsters surrounded him from all sides, chilling and horrifying. The forest ahead shook violently, as if it might uproot at any moment. In the darkness behind the mountains, a colossal mountain began to move. With his sharp vision, Guan could see it was a giant demon, at least 300 feet high, resembling a turtle carrying a mountain on its back. As it moved forward, dust flew everywhere. Guan saw numerous wandering ghosts circling around the mountain, like a following army. No wonder the Taizong dynasty couldn't eradicate all the demons and ghosts in the world despite having cultivators. Along the way, Guan's divine sense had picked up the sounds of villagers in the mountains, confirming he hadn't yet left the Taizong dynasty. The Taizong dynasty was vast, seemingly even larger than Earth in his previous life. With such expansive territory, it was teeming with countless demons and ghostly creatures. The other 8 dynasties were probably not much smaller than the Taizong dynasty, but as Shenzhen said, the lands of the 9 dynasties together only occupied a small corner of this continent. This world was indeed immeasurably vast. Inexhaustible earth spirit energy flowed into Gu En's body, continuously enhancing his cultivation. No wonder advancing from the 1st to the 9th level of the unification realm had consumed 18,000 years of lifespan. The amount of spiritual energy required for this process was enormous. Gu En suspected that this disturbance would affect an area of tens of thousands of miles, possibly even impacting the supreme sect. The 9th level of the unification realm was already like this. If he aimed for higher realms, would he alarm the entire dynasty? The main issue was compressing the spiritual energy absorbed over 18,000 years into a short time span, drawing an immense amount of spiritual energy. Once the spiritual energy in this area was depleted, he would have to draw from other places, as heaven and earth also needed time to replenish it. Whatever. He thought he would break through first and talk later. Nobody could stop him from becoming stronger. Gu En closed his eyes, ignoring the disturbances around him. In a spacious cave, the firelight flickered violently, casting the shadow of a large cauldron on the walls. It was a large iron cauldron, over a yard in diameter, with a blazing fire underneath. The soup inside was boiling, with white bones bobbing up and down. 2 human children were tied up against the cave wall. They appeared to be about 12 or 13 years old, a boy and a girl. The boy was rubbing the hemp rope on his wrists against a protruding rock, his wrists bleeding profusely, but he didn't frown. His actions only became faster, barely showing the white bones of his joints. The girl knelt on the ground beside him, nervously watching the cave entrance, as if terrified of something. The cave shook violently, and a horrifying demon wind blew in from outside, as if numerous demons were crying out, making their scalps tingle. The extreme terror turned their lips white, and their bodies trembled uncontrollably. Finally, the boy managed to break the rope binding his wrists. He quickly removed the ropes from his body and then turned to untie the girl. However, the girl's ropes were tied too tightly, and with his lack of strength, he couldn't loosen them. Ugh! A deep, resonant breathing sound came from outside the cave, resembling the croaking of a toad. The boy's movements stopped abruptly, a look of despair in his eyes. He looked toward the curved path ahead and saw a huge, bloated shadow appearing on the cave wall. The 2 children's faces turned pale at once. Suddenly, the bloated shadow seemed to be pulled away by something and disappeared in an instant. Soon after, the sound of crisp, loud chewing came from outside the cave. The boy leaned against the wall, quickly covering his mouth, afraid to make even the slightest noise. The bound girl closed her eyes tighter, not daring to look at the cave entrance. The earth spirit energy sank, causing the demons to flee in all directions. The night was destined to be anything but peaceful. 2 hours later, Gu En reached the 6th level of the unification realm. He predicted it would be dawn by the time he reached the 9th level. Compared to his previous breakthroughs, the speed at which he absorbed spiritual energy had increased several times, yet the breakthrough time had still lengthened. Normal cultivators in the unification realm never made such a large commotion while breaking through because they accumulated energy slowly and did not devour the spiritual energy required for future centuries and millenniums in a short time. Gu En waited patiently. Time passed quickly. As dawn broke, the first ray of sunlight pierced the sky. The sky was full of demon clouds, and the forest was shrouded in demon energy, like a dense fog. Gu En sat beneath the tree in meditation and suddenly opened his eyes. The 9th level of the unification realm, complete. Reaching this level, he clearly felt a significant enhancement in his divine sense and senses, even feeling his heart condensing spiritual power, as though something was about to grow. The rate at which he devoured Earth's spirit energy began to slow down. Gu En felt 100 times stronger compared to before. The 9th level of the unification realm was not something the 1st level could compare to. Guwen didn't believe any cultivator at the first level of the unification realm could kill him across realms. At that thought, he broke into a cold sweat. Almost ruined his Taoist heart. He couldn't think this way. Those who were killed across realms probably had this kind of mindset. He couldn't underestimate anyone and had to be mentally prepared for the possibility of being ambushed. Only then could he give it his all. Chapter 75. Exaggerated Limit Lifespan. Guwen takes a disciple. Once his cultivation level was completely stabilized, Guwen closed the lifespan barrier. This time, the lifespan barrier consumed over 8,000 years. At this rate, activating the lifespan barrier would sooner or later become a huge expenditure. He still needed to work hard to earn more lifespan. Although he appeared wealthy now, if he wanted to make a comprehensive improvement, the lifespan would not be enough. Guwen stood up, stretched lazily, and then touched his chest. The unification realm seemed like a transition, unlike the previous stages that had phases, but this transition was a great test of his cultivation accumulation. Guwen could feel that the next realm was related to the heart, and the thing condensing on his heart was a sign. It was just that he couldn't determine what it specifically would be for now. He began to move forward. It was still the infinite traceless mystic heaven step, and he moved continuously, covering hundreds of miles with each step. Meanwhile, he spread out his divine sense, carefully feeling the differences in the 9 layers of the unification realm. Suddenly, Guwen stopped walking, his eyes turned in one direction, and his brows furrowed slightly. He hesitated for a moment, but still moved towards that direction. By a small river in the mountains, a boy covered in blood and mud stood in front of a mountain wall. He held a large stone in his hand, and behind him stood a girl in a similar state of disarray, looking at the front in terror. On the opposite side of the river, a 2-zhang-tall wolf demon emerged from the forest. It walked upright, its deep black fur glistening. Despite the morning light, its eyes shone with a terrifying gleam. The wolf demon opened its mouth, exhaling a thick breath while staring fixedly at the two in front. The boy trembled in fear but still bravely took a step forward. Neither of them noticed a figure appearing on the mountain top behind them. It was Guwen. Guwen had temporarily changed into a white robe and wore a specially made mask. This was something he crafted in his spare time, containing restrictions to isolate divine sense probing. The breeze blew Guwen's robe as he looked at the two people below, casting a lifespan detection upon them. Gooden, non-ranked 12/99/9999. Little Flower, non-ranked 12/78/230, a lifespan limit of 9,999 years? Guwen doubted his eyes. This broke Ji Xiaoyu's record among the human race. Could it be that this boy also had a primordial Taoist talisman within him? At that moment, the wolf demon suddenly pounced on the boy named Gooden. Guwen waved his hand, and a beam of sword chi fell between the wolf demon and Gooden. Stones flew and water splashed, terrifying the wolf demon into immediate retreat, turning around and fleeing. Dust blew in their faces, causing Gooden to shut his eyes and cough. When the dust settled, he opened his eyes wide to see a half-zhang wide, 100-zhang long crack by the riverbank as if slashed by a giant sword. Footsteps came from the side, frightening Gooden into a shudder. He turned around quickly and saw Guwen. Although Guwen appeared human, the mask he wore led Gooden to retain his grip on the stone. "Are you a human or a demon?" Gooden cautiously asked, his voice weak and still trembling. Guwen spoke, "Naturally human, otherwise why would I save you?" He changed his voice to sound old and weary, as if in his 40s or 50s. Upon hearing this, Gooden let out a sigh of relief but did not put down the stone, making Guwen's eyes flash with admiration. "Where is your home? I will take you back." Guwen continued. Gooden fell silent immediately upon hearing this. At this moment, Little Flower behind him suddenly burst into tears. "My parents were eaten by the demon," she said intermittently, sobbing. Her emotional outburst made Gooden's eyes turn red as well. Then, Gooden recounted their experiences. A group of demons attacked their village, devouring all the adults and taking the children to this area. They saw their companions turned into soup every day. Last night, it was supposed to be their turn, but the mountain suddenly shook, and the demon guards ran out. At dawn, they escaped the cave but found no trace of the demons and started fleeing. Not long after, they were targeted by the wolf demon on its way. Guwen listened in silence. It was his first true encounter with the hardships of the mortal world. He was born in the Ji family, never experiencing the threat of demons, and later went to the Supreme Sect, smoothly advancing by seizing lifespan. Compared to him, these two children had it incredibly tough. Guwen felt a sense of compassion, but Guden's exaggerated lifespan prevented him from taking them back. Such an extreme lifespan, if they pursued immortal cultivation, would definitely bring endless troubles. Guwen even suspected that Guden possessed a great fortune. Thus, his entire family perished, except for him. Just as he was about to be eaten, Guwen broke through this area. Just as the wolf demon was about to catch him, Guwen saved him. All these coincidences coming together meant it was no coincidence. A child of fate? Seeing that these two were already orphans with no kin to rely on, Guwen couldn't bear it. After thinking it over, Guwen decided to first take them to a safe place. He appeared behind Guden in a single step, picked him up, then went to Little Flower and lifted her as well, moving quickly. Frightened by his movement technique, they stopped crying and stiffened. After 10 breaths of time. In a forest, Guwen stopped and gently placed them on the ground. He took out a bottle of elixir from his storage bag and poured half into each of their mouths. The sudden feeding made them choke, but as the elixir went down their throats, they felt a warm flow spreading through their meridians, which was a wonderful sensation. They opened their eyes wide in disbelief. Guwen then sat down cross-legged before them and asked, "Do you want to cultivate immortality?" He dared not take Guden back directly but could teach them the cultivation method and let them someday join the Supreme Sect on their own, keeping it unrelated to him. He intended to send the Supreme Sect a top-tier genius, compensating for multiple offenses of drawing spiritual energy over the years. "Are you an immortal?" Guden exclaimed, his face full of excitement. "I am not. I am merely striving to be an immortal. Since you have nowhere to go now, I shall teach you the cultivation method. In the future, you can join the Supreme Sect, finding a home there." Guwen replied, still using the altered voice to avoid being recognized later at the Supreme Sect. Guden nodded eagerly, even kowtowing to Guwen, calling him master. He turned to the dazed Little Flower, pressing her head downward, "Call him master." Little Flower instinctively called, "Master." Guwen initially wanted to refuse, but seeing their hopeful faces, he couldn't. Damned. Was this the effect of great fortune? Guwen felt it wasn't his compassion but Guden's fortune influencing him. Immortal cultivation emphasized fortune and karma, trusting in those intangible existences. "Fine, now I will teach you the mental method formula. Listen carefully and remember it well," Guwen said seriously. The two immediately sat upright, focused on him, fearing he would get angry. Guwen passed on his yang would primordial skill to them. He wasn't afraid Guden would fully comprehend it. Even with 1,000,000 years of lifespan, continuous improvement would be necessary. Honestly, he also wanted to see how far Guden could develop the yang would primordial skill. So far, he wasn't sure what tier his cultivation techniques and ultimate skills ranked within the immortal cultivation world. Time flew by quickly. Guwen spent half a day teaching, mainly to Little Flower. He taught the first layer of the mental method. Guden memorized it after hearing it once. The extreme lifespan indeed didn't lie. Guwen let Guden go to the side and cultivate while he instructed Little Flower alone. "Master, I feel something inside my body. Is it spiritual power?" By afternoon, as Little Flower pondered carefully, Guden suddenly shouted in excitement nearby. Little Flower, hearing this, opened her eyes wide in disbelief, followed by a look of gloom. Guwen calmly said, "Don't make a fuss. Where are your manners? Do you want to attract demons?" Guden quickly shut his mouth. As night approached, Little Flower finally memorized the first layer of the yang would primordial skills mental method. Another night passed. Guden had already fully embarked on the path of immortal cultivation, while Little Flower had yet to cultivate any spiritual power. Typically, with a 5 spirit root qualification, It took a month to cultivate spiritual power, so Guwen wasn't disappointed with Little Flower. At dawn, Guwen prepared to leave. Gooden, I am going out. I will return by evening. Take good care of your junior sister. Guwen instructed. Gooden opened his eyes and quickly stood up, nervously asking, Master, will you really come back? Don't leave us. I promise not to shout anymore. Little Flower also opened her eyes upon hearing this, stood up, and rushed over, holding Guwen's waist to prevent him from leaving. Guwen found it amusing but maintained a stern tone. I am going to slay demons. Do you want to burden your master by coming along? Hearing this, Little Flower immediately let go. Gooden's eyes darted, and he said, Master, we are also cultivating immortality now. How about giving us new names? He believed that having new names was significant, and being named by their master would strengthen the relationship. Guwen hesitated for a moment. He raised his right hand, pointing his finger towards the ground, inscribing words with sword chi. Gooden quickly ran over to watch by his side. Although from a mountain village, a teacher there had taught them, so he could barely recognize the words. After Guwen finished writing, Gooden couldn't help asking, And what? Master, what's the last word? Your name isn't How. How means sky, hoping you could become the sky for your junior sister and pave your own path to the heavens. As for Little Flower, her name is now an Exin. I hope she can live in peace and be content with what she has. Guwen said calmly and disappeared into thin air after speaking. Renamed and How, Gooden looked up, already unable to see Guwen's figure. He immediately squatted down, gazing at his new name, muttering, And how? He seemed intent on remembering the word how. An Exin squatted beside him, accompanying him in looking at the words on the ground. On the other side, Guwen hurried towards the supreme sect. When he returned to Mystic Valley, Wuxia was still leading disciples in training. He walked from the valley entrance and saw many cultivators flying across the sky. Evidently, the disturbance the previous night had alerted the supreme sect. Chapter 76. The World Watches. What is a sword cultivator? Seeing Guwen walk towards the valley entrance, Wuxia quickly ran over. Lu Jiujia was also practicing with the servant disciples. Now, he was Wuxian's right-hand man. He merely looked at Guwen from a distance without approaching. Even though it had been several years since his return, Lu Jiujia still did not dare face Guwen. Whenever he could avoid seeing him, he would, because he felt he had let Guwen down. Guwen had given him so many elixirs, yet he had strayed onto the wrong path and ultimately became a cripple. Every time he thought about it now, he felt regret. He even felt that he deserved his fate. After all, he had indeed committed many wrongdoings in the demon extermination hall and deserved the punishment. Guwen did not specifically try to guide Lu Jiujia. This allowed the young man to reflect and contemplate. Senior brother, last night there was another incident of spiritual energy descending. Although it wasn't as severe as the previous times, you still need to be careful when you go out. Wuxia came up to Guwen and reminded him. Guwen nodded and said, I felt it too, which is why I came back. How's the situation in the Medicine Valley? It wasn't affected. By the way, senior brother, are you going to watch the duel between the Mad Swordsman of Great Yu and Sword Venerable Fudao? Has Sword Venerable Fudao agreed to participate? No, but the rumors are rampant, and Sword Venerable Fudao should show up. As they chatted, they walked towards the pavilion. Currently, the Mystic Valley had recruited another batch of servant disciples. These disciples frequently looked at Guwen as they practiced. They were very curious about the true master of the valley. It was said that every few years, an outer disciple would emerge from this Medicine Valley. How could they not look forward to it? After chatting with Wuxia for a few moments, Guwen went upstairs. He planned to make some new clothes for an Hao and an Exing. An hour later, he went to the Third Medicine Valley to inspect his valley. The Third Medicine Valley was vast, and he had to personally check it to avoid any oversights. Even losing one medicinal herb would cost him his lifespan. The disciples in the Third Medicine Valley were also discussing the incident of spiritual energy descending last night. Various speculations were made, and Guwen chatted with them briefly. It wasn't until dusk that Guwen finally left. The sky was crimson, and the forest was dark. And Hao stood on a tree branch, gazing into the distance, hoping to spot Guan below the tree, and Xian asked nervously, "Will Master not come back?" "He will definitely come back," Master said he would, and he always keeps his word. And Hao said firmly, his tone resolute. In truth, he was unsure himself but tried to appear confident. The thought of Master possibly not returning made him feel wronged and brought him to the verge of tears. But with an Xian below, he absolutely couldn't cry. His father had once told him that boys could cry, but never in front of girls. Suddenly, a hand fell on Nzin's head, startling her into a scream as she instinctively jumped back. And Hao heard it and quickly turned around, only to see the figure he had been waiting for all day. He immediately shouted excitedly, "Master!" He jumped down and rushed towards Guan, hugging his waist just like an Xian had done that morning. Seeing that it was Guan, an Xian also became very excited and rushed over to hug him. Even though they've only known each other for 2 days, Guan had already become irreplaceable in their hearts. Guan placed a hand on each of their heads, gently pushing them away. He softly said, "Train diligently. If you don't train hard, I will leave you behind. If we excel in our training, will you stay?" And Hao asked. Guan took out 2 sets of clothes from his storage bag and said, "Didn't I tell you before? You will eventually go to the Supreme Sect. I won't be with you forever. Once you can protect yourselves, I will leave." Upon hearing this, and Hao's face fell immediately. And Xian bit her lip, her eyes turning red. Ignoring their emotions, Guan handed them the clothes and led them toward the river in the forest. An hour later, and Hao and an Xian had changed into their new clothes and tidied their hair. These two looked like a perfect pair of golden children in their new outfits, which was probably why that demon kept them for last, being reluctant to eat them. Guan decided to spend every night with them from then on, returning to the Supreme Sect during the day. The area within 1,000 miles had no presence of strong demons, only numerous villages and towns, so it was very safe for them to train here. And so, the days went by. A month passed in a flash. The outer gate city was crowded, and even the mountain areas outside the city gate were filled with cultivators in meditation. Many disciples from the other 7 outer gate cities, 4 inner gate cities, and the main city of the sect came to watch the battle, as well as disciples from other factions. The Supreme Sect did not prevent this from happening, causing the entire Immortal cultivation world of the Taizong dynasty to discuss the event. In front of the South City Gate, Han Ming stood proudly. He had his eyes closed, his sword box placed in front of him, and his hands resting on the top of the box, while the warm end of summer wind blew through his robes. Many cultivators stood on the city walls, watching him and discussing. "I wonder if Sword Venerable Fudao will show up. I think it's better if he doesn't. If he does, his true identity will be exposed, causing endless trouble in the future. He will surely come. He is so powerful that even if his true identity is revealed, who could defeat him?" It's said that Sword Venerable Fudao is actually the sect leader. He remains hidden to build another powerful force comparable to the sect leader within the Supreme Sect. I heard the mad swordsman of Great Yu has been surpassing the divinity transformation realm for years. If this fight truly takes place, it will be legendary. Zhuo Lin and his father, Zhuo Yijin, also stood on the city walls, looking down at Han Ming. Zhuo Lin's face was full of worry. He had already taken Han Ming as his master, so he naturally worried about his master's safety. Jiang Qiong and Hu Emo, who had a cultivation level of 9 layers of the divinity transformation realm, stood on top of a huge gourd, also discussing the upcoming battle. Yi Lan stood on the top of a tall building, gazing into the distance towards the South City Gate. The sky was blue, not a cloud in sight, while the mountains outside the city were rugged. There was no sight of Sword Venerable Fudao. Standing beside her were more than a dozen disciples of the law enforcement hall, all her subordinates, including Zhen Qin. They were all very excited. 5 miles away, Shenzhen, wearing a black veil, stood on the top of a treasure pagoda, also watching the South City Gate, his eyes filled with anticipation. This duel between sword cultivators, which had been brewing for a month, had captured the attention of the entire Supreme Sect and even the Immortal Cultivation world. Amidst the anticipation of everyone, Han Ming remained patient, keeping his eyes closed. Meanwhile, 15,000 miles away, in a vast forest, Gu En was instructing in Hao in sword practice. And Hao had reached the second layer of the energy cultivation realm in just 3 days of energy absorption and was now at the third layer. Today, Gu En started teaching him the techniques of the Taizong Divine Shocking Sword so that he could have combat skills. Meanwhile, Xen was still cultivating, concentrating on gathering her first wisp of spiritual power. The difference in their talent was like a chasm. Gu En only needed to demonstrate the moves once for Hao to remember them, making teaching him very easy. So this is what it's like to mentor a genius? No wonder the great cultivators favored geniuses. He was starting to favor Hao, too. While practicing the sword, Hao asked curiously, "Master, what is the name of this sword technique?" He wielded a wooden sword, but even so, his sword strokes already produced a sharp wind. Taizong Divine Shocking Sword. You are the only one who has learned my sword technique. Do not disgrace it in the future. Gu En said. Given Hao's talent, he would certainly be revered if he joined the Supreme Sect. Adding that he was the inheritor of Sword Venerable Fudeo's technique would make him even more extraordinary. In the future, the Supreme Sect would have to think twice about oppressing Hao, considering whether it was worth going against Sword Venerable Fudao. Taizong Divine Shocking Sword. Hao murmured, his eyes shining. He could feel the brilliance of the sword technique. Every time he practiced the moves, he had new insights, which made him deeply captivated. The sound of the sword cutting through the wind echoed continuously in the forest. Gu En stood to the side, watching quietly. The wooden mask covered his face, preventing Hao from seeing his expression. In the distance, Xen looked on with envy in her eyes. She also wanted to practice the sword. An hour later, Hao unexpectedly produced sword qi. As he swung the sword qi grazed past Gu En and struck the tree trunk behind him, leaving a fine sword mark. After producing sword qi, Hao seemed to have opened his meridians, becoming faster and more fluid in his movements, swift as a startled swan. The spiritual energy in the forest began to converge towards him. Gu En watched with a tense mind. What kind of monster is this? He felt he had created a significant upheaval. If he hadn't saved Hao would have been devoured by that demon, and the world would be without such a prodigious talent. He started to feel sorry for the likes of Li Ye, Ji Xiaoyu, LV Xian, Zhou Tongyu, and other peerless talents. Sorry, the position of the world's #1 now belongs to my disciple. Gu En himself wasn't interested in being the world's #1. Once attaining invincibility in the world, one might face enemies from heaven. He pursued the end of the immortal cultivation path, believing that there were more realms beyond this one. At noon, Gu En said, "Stop now." Hao immediately withdrew his sword upon hearing this. He was drenched in sweat and panting heavily, but his face was glowing with vitality, and his eyes were bright as torches. "Master, how did I do?" Hao asked with a proud smile. At 12 years old, he was beginning to show confidence. Gu En said, "You focus too much on the sword in your hand. Remember, the sword is not in your hand but in your heart. Whatever your mind envisions, anything can become a sword. Go pick a leaf." Upon hearing this, Hao scratched his head, then walked over to a tree. Gu En motioned for Xen to come over. Seeing this, Xen smiled and quickly got up and ran over. "Shiner, you also pick a leaf," Gu En said softly. Xen immediately complied. A few seconds later, the two stood before Gu En, curious about what he intended to do. Gu En took the leaf from Hao's hand first and said, "A true sword cultivator can demonstrate the power of a divine sword even with an ordinary leaf." He held the leaf between 2 fingers of his right hand and lightly swiped it toward the distance. The leaf flew out, and Hao and Xen followed it with their eyes. Boom! A strong wind erupted, messing up their hair. They widened their eyes in disbelief. The leaf suddenly burst forth with terrifying sword qi, shattering the forest in front of them and cutting through the air with unparalleled force, disappearing in an instant. A 10-foot-wide clearing appeared in the forest ahead. Dust was flying, and the scene was breathtaking. That direction, incidentally, was towards the outer gate of the Supreme Sect. Chapter 77. 2 Leaves decide the outcome. Outside the Supreme Sect, in front of the South City Gate. Sword Venerable Fudao, if you do not show up within 30 minutes' time, then I will carve 2 more words on the heavenly repair platform. Han Ming's voice resounded, loud as rolling thunder, reverberating between heaven and earth for a long time. His words stirred the cultivators into a flurry of discussion. Although the disciples of the Supreme Sect frowned, they did not dare to curse him, as he had observed the formalities first. Having eagerly awaited for a month, the fact that Sword Venerable Fudao hadn't appeared left even the disciples of the Supreme Sect somewhat disappointed. Zhuo Lin on the city wall breathed a sigh of relief, though he felt Han Ming was no match for Sword Venerable Fudao. Having spent a month together, he sincerely didn't wish for anything untoward to happen to Han Ming. Zhuo Yijian, on the other hand, looked into the distance, instinctively feeling that Sword Venerable Fudao would surely come. The commotion in the city grew louder. On the gourd magic artifact, Xianxia whispered, "Could it be that Sword Venerable Fudao is really the sect leader?" "It's possible," Huemo mused. Although Han Ming is not much stronger than Chu Xian, Sword Venerable Fudao would need to reveal his true form to defeat him, so he wouldn't dare show up. If Sword Venerable Fudao truly is the sect leader, it's going to be interesting, and it will be seen as a self-directed play. His expression was mocking, his tone laced with disdain. The gourd under their feet glowed faintly, a restraining force isolating them from the surrounding space. Jiang Qiong was about to speak more, but suddenly, a powerful sword intent erupted from the South City Gate. Immediately following, an unimaginable force surged from the southern horizon. She jerked her head up, and Huemo beside her did the same. In front of the South City Gate, Han Ming lifted his sword box and stepped out 100 zhang. He planted the sword box into the ground, its base sinking into the soil. The sword box opened, and 2 treasure swords sprung out to the sides. His right hand pressed on the top of the sword box, his body bursting with vast sword intent, alarming all onlookers. Before most could track his movements, a streak of sword chi shot from the distant horizon, sweeping through forests and mountains, unstoppable. In the blink of an eye, this streak of sword chi collided with Han Ming's vast sword intent. Han Ming's sword chi formed a blue light curtain, nearly 200 zhang high, immensely grand. However, when struck by the mysterious sword chi, his blue sword chi tore apart, seemingly shattered in an instant. He widened his eyes, looking up, his pupils reflecting a leaf. Boom! The leaf swept over his head, sending his black hair fluttering, causing him to stagger back a couple of steps. Every cultivator on the city wall paled, Zhuo Yijian instinctively raising his arm to protect his son, barely discerning what lay within the sword chi. Another loud rumble, and the city wall shuddered, but did not break. When the violent sword chi dispersed like a gale, a leaf was embedded in the wall, surrounded by spiderweb cracks. Han Ming steadied himself, advancing again, drawing 2 treasure swords from the sword box, looking up into the distance. The flying leaf passed, the gale roaring from the horizon as if to uproot everything in its path. Han Ming stood firm, his robes flapping backward, accentuating his robust physique. He fixed his gaze on the horizon, poised for battle. Cultivators from all directions, as well as those within the Supreme Sect, held their breath in anticipation. Sword Venerable Fudao had arrived. "Wow, Master, you're amazing. What swordsmanship is that? I want to learn." And Hao, after a brief moment of daze, jumped up in excitement. Guwen picked up the leaf from Enzin's hand, startling her into looking up at him. "This is the swordsmanship I taught you earlier. Once you've mastered it, you too can be like me. However, true mastery of the sword path is about returning to simplicity, achieving overwhelming power without grand displays." Guwen said softly, then tossed Enzin's leaf away. And Hao and Enzin's eyes followed the leaf as it floated 10 steps away, then suddenly accelerated like a streak of lightning. This time, The leaf didn't create the deafening display from earlier, appearing rather unremarkable, only its speed was fast. And Hao chuckled, "I like it when it's dramatic, it looks more impressive." Guwen placed his hands on their shoulders, and they vanished into thin air. 15,000 miles away, in front of the South City Gate of the Supreme Sect's outer sect, Han Ming, holding two swords, stood in readiness. Silence reigns over the world. Everyone awaited the next move of Sword Venerable Fudao. Suddenly, Han Ming's pupils contracted sharply, immediately releasing his swords and casting a spell. The remaining sword in the sword box unsheathed, and 3 swords circled around him. With a gesture of his right hand forward, the 3 treasure swords rose and charged forth. The 3 swords interwove and swirled, releasing terrible sword chi that transformed into 3 dragons of sword chi racing forward, uprooting trees along the way, raising dust, and shaking the earth and mountains. The cultivators in the sky were flung away by the spectacle. A glimmering light streaked from the horizon. It was a leaf shrouded in sword chi. It had come. Han Ming sharply focused on the leaf, which, though less oppressive than the previous one, felt even more dangerous to him. The leaf suddenly accelerated. Turning into a glimmering light, it pierced through Han Ming's sword chi, sending his 3 swords flying. Before they could settle, the leaf was already before Han Ming. So fast. Damn it. Han Ming was horrified, instinctively pushing out his palm. His robes erupted with a golden light, forming a golden bell shadow. Boom! The leaf shattered the golden bell shadow, piercing Han Ming's right shoulder. The powerful force left him unable to resist, dragging his body along, splitting the ground beneath him. Han Ming crashed into the city wall, shattering the wall behind him but not bringing it down. The reason it didn't collapse wasn't due to the wall's sturdiness but because Guwen had controlled it deliberately. Han Ming was pinned against the wall, spitting blood, his head hung low as if dead. "Master," Zuolin, atop the shaking wall, called out anxiously. Countless cultivators gasped. The mad swordsman of Great Yu had been defeated by Sword Venerable Fudao with just 2 leaves? How great was the gap? Flying Leaf Sword Immortal. Sword Venerable Fudao is the Flying Leaf Sword Immortal. A Supreme Sect disciple excitedly shouted. No need for him to spell it out, all spectators realized this. On the gourd magic artifact, Huemo opened his mouth but couldn't say anything. Yi Lan gazed at the remnants of sword chi in the sky, eyes full of envy. How advanced must one's cultivation be to wield such near-godlike power? Shenzhen flew over the city wall, landed on the ground, and swiftly pulled out paper and pen to sketch Han Ming pinned against the wall. Under the blue sky, amidst the mountains, a small town sat by a large lake. If anyone asks, do not mention me. Just say you are children from this town. Gu An's voice transmitted. And Hao and an Xen landed, instinctively turning around, but Guwen was already out of sight. At this moment, they stood in an alleyway, with moss-covered mud walls on both sides. As an Xen was about to speak, and Hao covered her mouth and said, "Sister, let's go catch frogs." He gave an Xen a look, and when she nodded, he released his hand. Then, they walked out of the alley one after another, drawn by the bustling street, smiles naturally spreading across their faces. After all, they were still children. On the other side, removing his mask, Guwen donned a blue Taoist robe and stepped into an inn. Having a rare chance to come out, he intended to enjoy the mortal world's sights. He went up to the 2nd floor of the inn, sat at a windowside table, ordered the inn's signature wine and dishes, then gazed out at the street below. Street vendors peddled their goods on both sides, with travelers passing by. Guwen even sensed the aura of other cultivators, though their numbers were not abundant. Patrons in the inn chatted about the grievances between Jianghu heroes, giving Guwen a feeling of having traveled through time again. Before his food and drink arrived, Guwen sensed a strong divine sense sweeping across the town. As expected, someone was coming. The divine sense swiftly vanished, not appearing again. Guwen was in no hurry, ready to relax for the day. When his food and drink arrived, he began to drink alone, admiring the old-fashioned street bustling with people below the window. The sun set, the moon rose. As night fell, the town remained lively, red lanterns hanging on the buildings, with small rivers crisscrossing the town, glowing faintly. Guwen stood atop a stone bridge, his brow furrowing slightly. He sensed a wisp of demon energy entering the town. Not very strong, just a second-rank demon creature, equivalent to the Foundation establishment realm. Guwen initially planned to return to the Supreme Sect the next morning to enjoy Victory's accolades, so he wasn't in a rush, curious to see what the demon creature intended. Though no cultivators openly resided in this town, the second-rank demon creature was still cautious, suggesting a particular reason. Guwen slowly walked toward the direction of the demon energy. As he passed by a courtyard, a voice called out to him. "Junior brother Gu." The voice was old, tinged with surprise and hesitation. Guwen turned his head, seeing an old man watching him from a courtyard. The old man had white hair and a stooped back, appearing in his 70s or 80s. Guwen frowned, suddenly thinking of something, hesitantly asked, "Senior brother Zhang?" Zhang Xianxia. It had been so long, Guwen had nearly forgotten Xianxia's aura, and Xianxia's appearance had changed significantly. The old man quickly walked out, excitedly saying, "It's really you. I felt like the person on the bridge looked like you from upstairs, but I didn't dare to believe it. Junior brother Gu, what brings you here? Are you on a mission as an outer disciple?" Guwen nodded, something like that. "Senior brother, what are you doing here?" "What a coincidence." Zhang Xianxia smiled. "This town is the wealthiest near the Supreme Sect. I'm here to spend my retirement." That made sense. Guwen chose this place because of its safety and vibrant population. Zhang Xianxia took Guwen by the wrist, smiling. "Come in and chat. You're not in a hurry, are you?" "Not at all," Guwen replied, sensing no one else in the courtyard. He was curious about Lotus' whereabouts. He had once eavesdropped on Zhang Xianxia muttering to himself, learning Zhang Xianxia had come down the mountain for a girl named Lotus. Chapter 78 Demon Guwen. Renowned throughout the world, the end of summer moon was very round, but the clouds were too many, and the bright moon was quickly obscured. Guwen and Zhang Xianxia sat inside the house, chatting leisurely. Zhang Xianxia spoke of his experiences over the years while Guwen listened attentively. Zhang Xianxia's story was like one written by a scholar. He left the Supreme Sect for a woman he loved, only that woman was a demon. Years ago, Zhang Xianxia went to the Supreme Sect seeking immortality. On the way, he was attacked by demons, and was luckily saved by a female demon named Lotus. Eventually, he safely entered the Supreme Sect. He always remembered Lotus' kindness. Every year, he would go out to visit her. Their feelings for each other grew rapidly. Many years later, having no hope of reaching the Foundation establishment realm, he chose to descend the mountain and spend the rest of his life with Lotus. After they met again, they came to this town, bought a mansion, got married, and had a son. After being with a demon for a long time, Zhang Xianxia's spiritual power was drained, along with his chi blood. Lotus couldn't bear to drag him down, so one morning, she left without saying goodbye. Hearing the story up to this point, Guwen wanted to say something but held back. "You might think I was deceived by her, but that's not the case. A human and a demon together end up this way. The reason I came down the mountain was also because there was no hope on the path of immortality. I do not regret it. Her lifespan is longer than mine. I don't have many years left. It's better she left earlier to avoid the pain of parting." Zhang Xianxia said with a smile, appearing kind. His cloudy eyes seemed to have seen through the vicissitudes of life in the mortal world. Looking at him, Guwen couldn't help but think back to when he first entered the Mystic Valley. How young was Zhang Xianxia then? Truly, things had changed. He detected that Zhang Xianxia only had 3 years left to live, which made him feel a bit sad. An hour later, the demon energy that Guwen had previously sensed entered the courtyard. It was Zhang Xianxia's son. Zhang Buku, Foundation Establishment Realm 2nd Layer 22/460/2300. At 22 years old and in the Foundation Establishment Realm 2nd Layer, he was absolutely a genius. Could it be easier to give birth to geniuses from the union of humans and demons? Guan suspected it might be because Lotus' aptitude was exceedingly high. Buku, this is your martial uncle, Guan. Zhang Chuanxiu called out to Zhang Buku, who had climbed over the wall. Zhang Buku looked like a boy of 16 or 17, with rather dense hair on his cheeks. Greetings, martial uncle Gu. Zhang Buku walked over, greeting shyly. Guan smiled and nodded, then took out a bottle of elixirs from his storage bag, saying, "This is a top-grade spirit energy elixir, just a little gift for our first meeting. How can we accept this?" "Senior brother, are you refusing out of disdain?" "How could I? I just think it's too precious." After pushing back and forth for a long time, Zhang Chuanxiu couldn't argue against Guan and had no choice but to let Zhang Buku accept it. Zhang Buku curiously observed Guan. It was the first time he'd received a gift from someone other than his parents. Making him feel good about Guan, Zhang Chuanxiu began asking about the situation in Mystic Valley, and Guan did not hide anything. Upon hearing that Cheng Xiandan and Meng Lang had died, Zhang Chuanxiu was not sad but rather a bit emotional and reminded Guan to be careful in the future. Then, Guan mentioned that Li Ye had already reached core formation. Zhang Chuanxiu exclaimed in wonder, saying he'd always seen that Li Ye would soar to great heights. The two chatted for a long time. Until Zhang Chuanxiu could no longer hold on, Guan finally said his goodbyes. Before leaving, supported by Zhang Buku, Zhang Chuanxiu turned around and said, "Junior brother Gu, you've already reached foundation establishment, which means your aptitude isn't terrible. Keep cultivating diligently. See how the world changes after hundreds of years for me." Guan stood at the door, looking back at him and nodding slightly. From beginning to end, Zhang Chuanxiu did not ask him for anything, just reminisced. As Guan walked out of the courtyard, he couldn't help but look back. He could hear Zhang Chuanxiu whispering to his son, asking where he had been causing trouble today, while Zhang Buku said he encountered a young boy and they fought. The boy he met was Hao. Earlier when they fought, Guan felt it. Although there was a gap in cultivation level, Zhang Buku did not have the intention to kill. After several exchanges, he left. This could be considered fate. Zhang Buku had the potential for a lifespan of 2,300 years, likely becoming a famous great demon among the demon clan. As for Hao, there was no need to mention that he had the potential to be the best in the world. Many years later, when they meet again, will they recall their childhood battle in this small town? Guan smiled, then disappeared into the night. At dawn, in the wilderness, at the edge of a cliff, Hao and an Exen sat in meditation on either side of Guan, facing the rising sun and practicing together. The sunshine poured down on them, making a harmonious picture. 3 blood marks on Hao's left cheek were left by Zhang Buku. He had been searching for Zhang Buku all night but couldn't find him. Even after leaving the town and arriving at this desolate place thousands of miles away, he was still indignant. Guan couldn't sit still anymore. He stood up and said, "I have to go out for a while. I'll be back by evening." "Hao, take care of your junior sister." With that, he disappeared from the cliff. Hao and an Exine opened their eyes, looked back, and saw that their master was gone. "Do you think our master is really who he says he is? Why does he only accompany us at night?" An Exine asked curiously. Touching his chin, Hao thought, "Remember the storyteller who came to our village 2 years ago and mentioned the tales of the martial world? I think our master is one of the top demon lords in the world. However, his reputation as a demon lord should be misunderstood. Otherwise, why would he save us? It's because of this that he doesn't want us to be implicated by his reputation." And Xin's eyes widened and she asked, "If Master really is a demon lord, then what is he going to do now?" "I don't know. But no matter what, he is our master. Anyway, he treats us very well, and we must remember his kindness." Guan, who was referred to as the Great Demon Lord by his disciples, returned to Mystic Valley and directly used the teleportation array to travel to the 3rd Medicine Valley. Sure enough, after the big battle ended, someone came looking for him. Guan walked into his loft and saw Shenzhen drawing at the desk. "I say, holy daughter Xin, have you made my place your home? Coming and going as you please, aren't you afraid of offending me?" Guan said helplessly. Without lifting her eyes, Shenzhen said, Come quickly and see. Guwen immediately walked over, looked at her drawing and frowned. Is this Han Ming? Yes, how is it? Did I draw well? Aren't you afraid he'll hold a grudge against you? Would he dare? My father isn't someone to be trifled with. Shenzhen huffed, making Guwen fall silent. Having backers is indeed impressive. Guwen took a closer look. He had to admit that Shenzhen's painting skills were extraordinary. The scene of Han Ming being nailed to the city wall was depicted very clearly, including the cracks on the wall. How is it, what do you think? Shenzhen asked proudly. Guwen grabbed her brush and added a few strokes to the paper. Shenzhen squinted at it, then her eyes widened. Guwen had added some wind and shadow effects, making the scene more dynamic. This was a drawing technique from Earth's comics. Such a technique did not necessarily mean it was better than Shenzhen's, but the key was that Shenzhen had never seen this style before. Although it was just a piece of paper, it made her feel the movements, as if painting the process of Han Ming smashing against the wall. She turned to Guwen and couldn't help but say, "You know how to draw?" "A little." "What about poetry and song?" "I know a bit of everything." There was admiration in Shenzhen's eyes, which made Guwen lift his chin slightly. "Showing off, are we?" "Well, after all, you did write Investiture of the Gods." Shenzhen sighed. Guwen then asked, "Why did you draw this picture?" Could it be that Shenzhen had a grudge against Han Ming? To tell the truth, I'm very interested in Sword Venerable Fu Dao. I always felt he would be a handsome and aloof swordsman. So many people came to watch the battle, yet he didn't show himself. He really has charisma. Shenzhen's eyes revealed a look of admiration. Gu and his lips twitched. What if he isn't a handsome young man, but an old man? That's not impossible. Besides writing books, he'll be investigating Sword Venerable Fu Dao. I must find him. Why? To become Taoist friends, of course. Pan, and don't think I keep coming here because I like you. Even though I don't love cultivating, my Taoist friend must be the top great cultivator in the world. Just in case I offend someone while writing or drawing, he should be able to handle it. Shenzhen rolled her eyes at Guwen, then tidied up her drawing and walked towards the door. Guwen shook his head with a smile, not following her. After Shenzhen left the Medicine Valley, he went downstairs to check on the medicinal herbs. The servant disciples were still discussing Sword Venerable Fu Dao, each with a look of fanaticism on their faces. Listening to their praises, Guwen felt very happy. Despite his recent display of power, Guwen couldn't afford to be complacent. He still had to accumulate his lifespan steadily and diligently. The 9 layers of the unification realm were not enough to satisfy him. In the blink of an eye, a year passed and another summer arrived. By now, Guwen did not visit an Hao and an Xian daily, but only twice a month. And Hao's cultivation had reached the 9th layer of the energy cultivation realm and could protect an Xian well. Last month, and Hao passed the test Guwen arranged, personally killing the wolf demon that had previously chased them. Guwen had let the wolf demon go to leave it for an Hao to kill. Alright, he admitted, upon first seeing an Hao's aptitude, he had already thought of a plan to nurture him extensively. The reason they hadn't gone to the Supreme Sect was that Nzin's cultivation level wasn't sufficient yet. Besides, the two were still young and could learn more from Guwen. One day at noon, Guwen went alone to the outer sect, first heading to the Heavenly Repair Platform. There were more and more sword cultivators on the Heavenly Repair Platform, and many were not from the Supreme Sect. The news of Sword Venerable Fu Dao severely injuring the mad swordsman of Great Yu with 2 leaves swept the immortal cultivation world. Now, Sword Venerable Fu Dao had become the most revered figure among the Supreme Sect disciples. Even though a year had passed, every time Guwen came to the Outer Gate City, he could hear the disciples talking about it. After the fame of that battle spread, more and more sword cultivators came to visit. The Supreme Sect did not refuse them but increased the defensive forces in this part of the Outer Gate City. This also resulted in Xianxia's authority rising significantly since she was the great elder of the city. Guwen looked from afar and saw Han Ming standing by Zuolin, scolding him impatiently, while Zuolin sat on the ground with a sullen face. Guwen laughed. He wanted to see this scene, which was why he recommended Han Ming to take Zuolin as a disciple. Zuolin was a genius in every aspect, except for his exceedingly poor understanding of Sword Dao. Yet he loved Sword Dao the most. Guwen chuckled to himself, then shifted his gaze to the others on the platform, looking for any unfamiliar great cultivators. As he scanned, he really found one. Chapter 79. Ghost Mother of Ephemera, LV Xian returns. Ghost Mother of Ephemera, second level of Unification Realm 3750/8090/54000, second level of Unification Realm. This exaggerated lifespan. First the Underworld Demon Emperor, now the Ghost Mother of Ephemera. Why do they all seem like characters from the underworld? Guwen lamented silently. Even ghosts have lifespans, which means that even if they die, they can't exist forever. After thinking about it carefully, it made sense. If ghosts could exist forever, wouldn't this world be ruled by ghosts? Only tales of thousand-year-old evil ghosts are heard, never of million-year-old ghost emperors. Of course, it could also be that Guwen's level wasn't high enough to encounter such beings, but at least this mortal world was still dominated by the human race. Perhaps there was a force in the dark that suppressed the existence of ghosts, maintaining balance in all things. The lifespan of the human race might be short, but they cultivated quickly. Each had its pros and cons. The Ghost Mother of Ephemera disguised herself as a female disciple of the Supreme Sect, looking very young. Her cultivation level suppressed to Foundation Establishment Realm, making it difficult for others to detect her abnormality. Guwen didn't look any further, afraid of drawing her attention. The Supreme Sect had countless demons and monsters. As long as they didn't threaten him, he didn't bother. Little friend Gu. Han Ming suddenly walked over, with a smile on his face. Despite experiencing a crushing defeat, he didn't feel humiliated. Instead, he felt fortunate. Sword Venerable Fu Dao had pinned him to the city wall with a leaf, and the sword intent contained in that leaf benefited him greatly, indicating a lesson in disguise. With Fu Dao's ability, had he wanted to kill him, he definitely wouldn't have survived. Guwen looked at the approaching Han Ming, and immediately saluted. Han Ming came forward, warmly grabbing his hand, and said, "Little friend Gu, since you're here, you must practice swordsmanship with me. The disciple you recommended to me is really too dull. It's driving my Taoist heart restless with anger." As he spoke, Han Ming pulled Guwen in the direction of Zuolin. Guwen, unable to break free from his hand while hiding his cultivation level, could only walk helplessly. Han Ming had Guwen sit next to Zuolin, then started teaching swordsmanship techniques. Zuolin, seeing Guwen, was very pleased and kept pulling him to talk endlessly, making Han Ming very irritable and scold Zuolin again. Zuijian sat on one side, smiling as he watched his son being scolded, while also scrutinizing Guwen. Besides being good-looking, his cultivation level seemed ordinary, and Zuijian couldn't understand what caught Han Ming's eye about this child. Zuijian closed his eyes, while feeling the sword intent within the words, "righteous path." And thinking back to the scene of Han Ming being defeated, he seemed to catch something in the dark, yet it felt like an illusion. This complex feeling made him bewildered. After a full ancient hour, Guwen finally managed to escape Han Ming's entreaties. Han Ming's swordsmanship, Guwen had memorized it after hearing it once, but to keep a low profile, he had listened to it 6 times, really exhausting himself. Guwen hastily left under Han Ming's disappointed gaze. From now on, he had to avoid Han Ming when visiting the Heavenly Repair platform. This guy was too troublesome, Guwen thought to himself, and then went to the Elixir Hall and the Book Collection Hall in sequence to report in, and finally visited Jiang Qiong at the Great Elder's residence. In the main hall, Jiang Qiong threw a storage bag to Guwen and said, "These are all high-rank medical herbs I have collected. Once they mature, you can take 20%. Hasn't your martial master treated you well?" Guwen scanned it with his divine sense and was elated. So many seeds, and the lowest grade was 4th rank. "Thank you, martial master," Guwen said sincerely. Jiang Qiong could have asked someone else to nurture them. She was the great elder now, holding significant power. Hearing this, Jiang Qiong smiled contentedly, She enjoyed seeing Gu An's gratitude towards her. Try not to sell the green vine fruit. It greatly enhances chi blood and root bones, making it a treasure beyond the measure of spirit stones, Xianxia said earnestly. Clearly, she had found out about Gu An's record of selling green vine fruit. Gu nodded. He no longer needed spirit stones to buy seeds, so naturally, he wouldn't sell them. Next, I plan to strive further upward. Your medicine valley can partly be credited to me. Cultivate it well. In the future, I will find a golden core from a core formation realm cultivator and use secret techniques to help you become a core formation realm cultivator, Xianxia continued. Gu quickly thanked her again. Then, Xianxia waved her hand, indicating he could leave. Gu turned to leave. After taking a few steps, Xianxia's voice floated from behind. Gu, do you write books? This statement made Gu N's heart tremble. What did that mean? Was he discovered by Xianxia? Or was it a test? Gu turned back and asked confusedly, write books about what? Xianxia looked at his face, which didn't appear guilty, and then shook her head. Nothing. Go back. Gu scratched his head and left with a puzzled expression. Xianxia sat in her chair and thought. After a while, she took a book out of her storage bag and started flipping through it. The cover had 4 words, Supreme Secret Records. Summer was blistering hot. The 13-year-old Hao lay by the river, facing the sky, his head immersed in the water, bubbling as he blew bubbles. Not far away, an Xen was sitting under a tree, meditating and cultivating. Her brows were furrowed, obviously finding her cultivation difficult. A figure covered in Hao's body, making him open his eyes subconsciously. When he saw who it was, he quickly got up. Master! And Hao quickly got up, rubbed his wet hair, and then cultivated energy to dry his hair with spiritual power, causing wisps of white smoke to rise from his head. Gu wore a mask and spoke in a hoarse, low voice. I won't teach you swordsmanship today, I'll teach you leg techniques. Hearing this, Hao's eyes lit up, and he became excited. Finally, he didn't have to learn swordsmanship. And Hao was not only strong in spirit root qualification, but also had exceptional comprehension. After practicing the Taitsong Divine Shocking Sword for a year, he had fully mastered its moves and mental methods. Now, he only needed to cultivate his own sword intent. Gu lifted his leg, standing on one leg. This posture immediately stunned Hao, and even an Xian, who was absorbing energy, got drawn in. This leg technique is called Gale Shadowless Leg. Watch carefully. Gu said with a deep voice. Currently, only Yi Lan inherited this move, while others practiced the residual wind leg. Although the residual wind leg was the basic leg technique of the Gale Shadowless Leg, it was hard to see their close connection when put together. He was not afraid that Yi Lan and Hao would recognize each other's leg techniques in the future. If they could recognize it, it meant they were fighting, just in time for Hao to show mercy. After spending more than a year together, Gu had already treated Hao like his own child. Hao was not inherently bad and even had a chivalrous spirit deep down, only a bit carefree in personality. Gu's leg shot out, and in an instant, countless leg shadows burst forth, a gale arose, splashing water, and the trees in front of him toppled. The mountain wall 100 feet away cracked, with dense footprints appearing, very spectacular. Even the clouds in the sky were torn apart. Hao was dumbfounded and trembling all over, while an Xen was also watching with wide eyes. What a domineering leg technique. I want to learn. I want to learn. It feels more impressive than the Taitsong Divine Shocking Sword. Hao shouted excitedly and even kicked a few times in place. Gu said, the Taitsong Divine Shocking Sword is stronger than the Gale Shadowless Leg. I just didn't show you its full power. Hee, I get it. I won't forget to practice the Taitsong Divine Shocking Sword in the future. Hao quickly promised. Gu started teaching him the moves. As always, Hao memorized the moves after seeing them once and then began practicing on his own. Again and again he became more proficient. Gu suddenly felt it was time to arrange for Hao to go to the Supreme Sect. This child's talent was terrifyingly high. If he could join the Supreme Sect earlier, He might establish a better foundation since Guan could only teach him cultivation techniques and ultimate skills. However, Guan thought of an Exin. Her qualification was too mediocre. Never mind, let them go. Qualification wasn't something he could change for now, so why worry for her? Guan decided to wait another 6 months before sending the 2 children to the Supreme Sect. In 10 years, and how might become renowned. He wondered how long it would take for him to catch up with Li Ya and Ji Xiaoyu. Guan even began to look forward to the duel between Li Ya and An Hao. Li Ya, being naturally competitive, would certainly clash with An Hao one day. There were internal combats within the Supreme Sect. Although the two were over 30 years apart, they could be considered the same generation. The summer heat was intense, and Hao soon became drenched in sweat, yet he continued practicing legs tirelessly. Despite his young age, once his clothes were soaked with sweat, his body showed strong muscle lines, full of strength. Guan just stood there, quietly watching. Xianxia Valley. Guan was planting seeds, with Sun San following close behind, carrying a basket. To prevent being seen through, Guan didn't just harvest. Occasionally he did other tasks. "I'm back." A voice came from the valley entrance. Guan didn't have to look to know it was LV Xian. LV Xian walked in from the valley entrance, wearing a blue robe and holding a folding fan, looking more masculine compared to his previous red attire. "How did it go? Smoothly?" Sitting on the mountaintop, Iluyun asked, his voice echoing through Xianxia Valley. Luo Han appeared in front of the pavilion with a long spear, welcoming LV Xian's return. Guan also had to show his respect. Compared to LV Xian, Guan was more concerned about Li Ya's situation in the 100 Races Assembly. LV Xian wore a faint smile and said, "Naturally smooth, although there were some twists in the middle, I took the first place without any surprises." Hearing this, both Luo Han and Yi Luyun smiled. They all served Li Xiandao and would experience life and death together in the future. The stronger LV Xian was, the happier they would be. Yi Luyun asked again across the Medicine Valley, "Did the talents from the Ji family, Gu family, and Zhou family pose any threat to you?" LV Xian replied, "A woman named Ji Xiaoyu from the Ji family gave me some trouble. Unfortunately, she withdrew halfway, and without defeating her head-on, I felt some regret. Other than that, there were less than 5 opponents who could contend with me." "Was there anyone among His Majesty's children who satisfied you?" Luo Han asked, with some expectation in his tone. LV Xian shook his head and said disdainfully, "Although I greatly admire His Majesty, his children are really not up to par, not even close to him. By the way, there was a prince named Li Ya who showed surprising ferocity. To win, I had to break his limbs. He'll probably need a year or 2 to recover." This statement caused Luo Han's face to change dramatically. Guan couldn't help but frown as well. Chapter 80, Mystic Tortoise Surging Wave Palm, shockingly revealed Heavenly Spirit Root. Guan felt annoyed when he heard about Li Ya's injury. This guy was too harsh with his moves, and now he was belittling Li Ya. Previously, Guan thought that even if LV Xian defeated Li Ya, he would show some mercy for Li Zuando's sake, but he hadn't expected such arrogance, with a tone that showed no regard for Li Xiandao. Yi Luyun appeared out of nowhere in front of LV Xian and frowned as he asked, "Why did you injure His Highness? Couldn't you just knock him out?" Clearly, Li Xiandao frequently mentioned Li Ya in front of him. "What's the matter? He can't be injured? He's not the Crown Prince, and compared to the Crown Prince, he's far inferior." LV Xian frowned and retorted, his tone filled with dissatisfaction. "Even if he's not the Crown Prince, he's still a prince that His Majesty cares about." Yi Luyun's tone was somewhat heavy. Luo Han remained silent, but from his expression, it was clear he was also displeased. LV Xian snorted, "Is it forbidden? Then you beat me up and break my hands and feet." At this moment, he saw Guan approaching, immediately became excited, and walked up to him. "Valley Master, I've already won the championship of the 100 Clans tournament. How about training with me?" LV Xian said, taking a golden token from his storage bag with the words Hidden Dragon List Champion inscribed on it. Guan nodded, "Then let's learn." Upon hearing this, Xian immediately pulled him aside. Yi Luyun looked at Luo Hun and asked, "Do we need to inform His Majesty about this?" Luo Hun thought for a moment and said, "No need, His Majesty surely has people watching over His Highness Li Ya." Yi Luyun sighed, shook his head, and then disappeared from the spot. Gu followed Xian to an open space, with 3 monkey demons following and watching curiously from the side. "What kind of spell do you like?" Xian asked, rubbing his hands, eager to teach. "Anything but swordsmanship." Gu replied. This had been agreed upon earlier, he didn't want to break his word. However, the matter of Xian injuring Li Ya couldn't be overlooked. "Then I'll teach you the hand technique, all right? I have a powerful hand technique, the very one I used to break Li Ya's hands and feet." Xian said with a proud smile, glancing at the distant Yi Luyun, clearly meant for him to hear. Gu nodded, "Then teach it. Let's see how powerful it is." Xian immediately began teaching the hand technique, demonstrating the moves while explaining the mental method. Mystic Tortoise Surging Wave Palm. The name alone sounded domineering. Gu watched intently. He was ready to thoroughly torment Xian. The sun shone brightly and gradually set in the west. By the time evening fell, Xian, looking frustrated, asked, "Are you really that forgetful, or are you deliberately messing with me?" His loud voice startled Luo Hun and Yi Luyun, who hurriedly flew over, fearing he might get violent. Gu sighed, "I already said my aptitude and comprehension are very poor, but you didn't believe me and insisted on teaching me. Now you're getting impatient." No one could be this dumb, right? Xian couldn't understand, yet Gu didn't seem to be faking it. Yi Luyun said, "The Valley Master's cultivation was all piled up with elixirs, understandable. I've told you before, don't always try to persuade others, everyone's situation is different." Luo Hun reminded, what His Majesty values is his cultivation ability. He emphasized the phrase, values. Xian took a deep breath and said, "I don't believe it. I must teach him." Gu hastily said, "Next time. I need to go back." "You can't leave." Hearing this, Gu turned to leave, and Yi Luyun and Luo Hun quickly stopped Xian. "Damn it, Valley Master, you must come back. Once you master the Mystic Tortoise Surging Wave Palm, you'll have the power to protect yourself, and you might even compete for heavenly destiny, reaching higher levels." Xian watched Gu's retreating figure and shouted loudly. Gu didn't understand him. Cruel to opponents, yet he enjoyed teaching people to cultivate? Was he having split dreams? Gu thought as he flew away on his sword, quickly disappearing into the twilight. In the days that followed, every time Gu visited, Xian would try to teach him spells. No matter how he taught, Gu couldn't learn, but Xian never gave up. If he couldn't teach one spell, he'd move on to another. Time flew by. The end of the year arrived. Heavy snow covered miles of mountains and forests. Gu, dressed in white and wearing a mask, walked out of the forest, with an Hao and an Exen following behind him. The usually lively and Hao was now silent as well. Gu stopped and looked at the snowy mountains ahead, then said, "A few hundred miles ahead, you'll reach the outer sect of the Supreme Sect. Once there, unleash your spiritual power, and they will bring you into the city to test your spirit roots." And Xin's eyes were red as she couldn't help but ask, "Master, when will we see you again? I saved you because I happened to pass by. This is a fate that shouldn't have been. We will not meet again, and you must not mention me to anyone." Gu said, turning his back to them. He had taught an Hao and an Exen to cultivate without any ulterior motive, it was just a whim. He didn't need them to repay him and hoped their relationship would end here. And Hao suddenly knelt down, and an Exen followed, kowtowing to Gu. This time, Gu didn't stop them and accepted their 3 kowtows. And Hao's forehead was directly broken, blood and flesh mingling, but he felt no pain, staring firmly at his master's back. He could never forget the terrifying experience in the demon cave and the despair when facing the wolf demon. "Master, no matter who you are, I will always remember your kindness. I will strive to cultivate, make a name for myself, and become the greatest person under the heavens. When you hear my name and need anything, disciple would die 1,000 deaths without hesitation. And Hao said solemnly. Though he had just turned 14, there was a determination in his eyes fiercer than that of an adult man. Gu-en waved his sleeve, and the wind and snow swept in from the horizon, causing an Hao and an Xian to instinctively raise their arms to shield their faces. If you want to help me, live for 1,000 years first. Gu-en's voice drifted away in the wind. When the snow passed, the two raised their eyes, and he was already gone. An Xian couldn't help but look at an Hao, waiting for his decision. He stood up, looked toward the horizon, and said softly, "An Xian, we must not disappoint Master." An Xian nodded firmly. The siblings stepped forward into the flying snow that seemed ready to swallow them. Gu-en returned to Mystic Valley. He first inspected the medicinal herbs in Mystic Valley and then returned to his loft, keeping his divine sense focused on an Hao and an Xian the entire time. Although they were less than 300 miles from the Supreme Sect, he still worried as the Supreme Sect was now a mix of fish and dragons. For the next few days, no matter where he went or what he did, he kept part of his divine sense watching over an Hao and an Xian until they safely reached the outer sect of the Supreme Sect. When the young an Hao revealed his Qi Cultivation Realm 9 layers cultivation level, it immediately shocked the elder of the Outer Gate City, who personally attended to them. The reason he chose the nearby Outer Gate City was mainly because there were many great cultivators in the city, and an Hao wouldn't be easily plotted against or possessed. As the new year arrived, during the Spring Festival, Mystic Valley, Gu-en, Yilan, Zhenqin, Wuxin, Xiaochuan, Tangyu, and others sat around a long table celebrating. Other servant disciples sat at another table, clinking glasses together. Have you heard? Recently, the outer sect recruited a disciple with heavenly spirit root. Even the elders of the sect's main city were alerted. His name isn't Hao, and he's only 14 years old, almost at foundation establishment. It's unbelievable. Compared to him, I feel like my cultivation has turned me into a pig. Zhenqin marveled while holding a wine bowl. Heavenly spirit root. Everyone was intrigued, and Wuxin couldn't help but ask, is that true? The Taitsong dynasty hasn't had a heavenly spirit root for hundreds of years. It's true. Our law enforcement hall even guarded him for a few days until the sect leader took him away. Yilan nodded, much calmer than Zhenqin. Everyone continued discussing the heavenly spirit root, with Wuxin sharing many legends, making Yilan frown. How does this kid know so much? Is there something suspicious about him? Yilan thought silently as she looked at Wuxin. Although she had known him for years, people could change. No, she had to check Wuxian's entry records. Listening to everyone talk about an Hao, Gu-en couldn't help but smile. From now on, there would be another interesting aspect to his farming life, watching how high an Hao could grow. After a long discussion, the topic shifted to the Immortal cultivation world. It was said that a demon disaster was occurring in Changluo, Sangzhou, with a demon attempting to assassinate the emperor. The emperor narrowly survived, resulting in anger and a pursuit of those responsible, with entire families being executed. Gu-en knew that Li Xiandao hid the 9 layers of divinity transformation realm, so he wasn't worried, listening with great interest. The New Year's celebration, bidding farewell to the old and welcoming the new, lasted until dawn. When the sun first rose, Yilan and Zhenqin left. Gu-en did not immediately leave Mystic Valley but quietly entered the 8 scenic caves to bring delicacies to Sky Dragon. Under the green vine tree, seeing Gu-en arrive, Sky Dragon was very happy, swimming quickly around him. Now it was nearly 2 zhang long, with dragon horns fully grown, looking like a real dragon, its black dragon scales gleaming with cold light. Master, when can you take me outside? Sky Dragon rubbed Gu-en's face, asking pitifully. Gu-en stroked its head, smiling, didn't I tell you? When you grow up completely. Outside, many people are eyeing your flesh, just like you look at mutton. How big counts as grown up? I feel I'm very strong now, even stronger than you, Master. Sky Dragon said aggrievedly. Although Gu-en had practiced swordsmanship under the tree, he had never shown his true strength, so even Sky Dragon didn't know his real abilities. Hearing its words, Guwen thought he couldn't continue like this. "He'll think of a way." Guwen pondered. He decided to find Xianxia to see if she understood transformation skills, to turn Sky Dragon into a snake so that it could follow him outside. Upon hearing this, Sky Dragon immediately became happy, even cheering, making Guwen laugh. After staying in the 8 scenic caves for an ancient hour, Guwen left, leaving quickly because he sensed a familiar presence approaching Mystic Valley. Guwen returned to his loft, pretending to read a book. After a while, a figure leapt in through the window, and before landing, the voice rang out, "Junior brother Gu, guess what treasure I brought back for you?" Chapter 81 Ancient Gold, Swallowing Insect. Demon Path besieges Supreme Sect. Guwen looked at Liya, who climbed in through the window, and said helplessly, "What treasure could be better than my windowsill?" Liya, dressed in green, walked to the table, took a bag from his waist, placed it on the table, and said with a smug smile, "This treasure you will definitely like." Guwen probed with his divine sense, frowned, and asked, "Why are they just bugs?" "These are ancient gold-swallowing insects. Their jaws can bite through any gold, iron, ore in the world. If fed with golden attribute spirit energy, they can grow even stronger. There are 16 in total here, one of them is a queen. They are quite good for guarding the house and can also help you dig the ground," Liya said with a smile. Upon hearing this, Guwen became interested and asked curiously, "How do you make them recognize their master?" "There is a special recognition ritual. You have to drip your blood essence onto the queen insect to establish a soul connection," Liya said, following by handing Guwen a thin secret book from his storage bag. Guwen took it but did not open it immediately. Instead, he asked, "How did the 100 clan assembly go?" Liya pulled over a chair from the side, sat opposite Guwen, and sighed. "It wasn't smooth, but it was enlightening. The world is truly full of experts and talents. My talent was nothing at the assembly of the 9 dynasties and 100 clans. I barely made it into the top 100, and Zhou Tongyu only made it into the top 10. Seeing how optimistic he seemed, Guwen felt slightly less worried. Liya began to recount what he had seen and heard at the 100 clan assembly, and Guwen listened attentively. Halfway through, Guwen even got up to pour some wine, listening while drinking. Liya kept talking until dusk and still had more to say. Guwen lamented, "So it seems only our family's third miss can pose a threat to LV Xian? Her Qilin step is indeed formidable. She was the only one able to wound LV Xian. Unfortunately, she encountered a heavenly tribulation after taking 9 steps, temporarily halting the combat. She hasn't been seen since," Liya nodded. "Heavenly tribulation? What does that mean? Is the Qilin step that powerful?" Guwen was surprised. He had taken countless steps over the past 2 years and hadn't encountered any heavenly tribulations. Liya shook his head. "How would I know? Maybe she has some hidden secret within her body." Innate Taoist talisman. Guwen sighed in his heart. Is she cheating? Compared to Ji Xiaoyu, LV Xian's strength was what shocked me the most. "He is my next target and I will challenge him and win next time," Liya said with fighting spirit. Guwen asked, "Didn't you just say he broke all your limbs? Don't you hate him?" Liya shook his head. "It was a normal sparring match, nothing to hate. Besides, I refused to admit defeat at the time. I heard from a senior that he's also a pitiful person. He has other remnant souls within him that want to seize his body. That's why he sometimes acts friendly, sometimes violent." "Other remnant souls?" Guwen breathed a sigh of relief. If that's the case, then he was reassured. He had been worried that LV Xian was an immortal reincarnated. Now it seemed that wasn't the case. "What do you mean by other remnant souls?" Guwen asked in confusion. "Not sure. It might be related to some treasure, or maybe he was possessed. Anyway, he will be tormented until he clears those souls. No wonder he was never mentioned in the Supreme Sect before. Perhaps the LV family kept him protected. By the way, his father was the previous sect leader, LV Baitin. LV Baitin went into deviation while cultivating, and his son is tormented by residual souls. Is it just a coincidence?" Liya frowned as he spoke. then sighed and said, if LV Xian were not affected by the residual souls, he might have already formed his nascent soul. His power would be unimaginable. Guwen laughed, amused that he was starting to sympathize with LV Xian. By the way, who was that senior you mentioned? He sounds amazing, Guwen asked, feigning curiosity. An unnamed senior. Sorry, I can't reveal more, Leah replied. Heh, must be the old master inside you. Guwen could sense the growing presence of a soul within Leah. He suddenly thought of something. Before reaching the unification realm, he could sense the soul within Leah. Those great cultivators in the Void Crossing realm should be able to detect it too. Judging by Li Ya's words, it seemed no one had discovered this. Was it because Gu An's cultivation technique was too strong, or was there another reason? Even though it was getting late, Leah showed no sign of leaving. He kept chatting with Guwen, describing the landscapes he saw during his travels. They talked until the next morning when Leah finally left. After he left, Guwen picked up the secret book left by Leah and began studying how to make the ancient gold-swallowing insects recognize him as their master. Under a clear sky, in the Third Medicine Valley, Guwen stood in front of Elder Tian, raising his right hand. On the back of his hand was a golden insect resembling a beetle but with larger mandibles. Ancient gold-swallowing insect, this creature is very rare, hard to find even within the Taizong dynasty, Elder Tian praised. This was a gift from my senior brother, Leah. He placed in the top 100 at the 100 Clan Assembly and brought this insect back for me. It can help patrol the Medicine Valley in the future, Guwen said with a smile. He had mentioned Leah to Elder Tian several times. If Elder Tian ever regained his position as sect leader, hopefully he would remember Leah and cultivate him with care. Elder Tian nodded. It seems this Leah is indeed talented and devoted. A single ancient gold-swallowing insect is invaluable, let alone 16. Guwen opened the insect bag at his waist, and the ancient gold-swallowing insects flew out. One of them, twice the size of the others, landed on his shoulder while the rest hovered around him. Passing by, Xiaochuan couldn't help but come over and Guwen began showing off the insects. By the evening, all the servant disciples in the Third Medicine Valley had witnessed the ancient gold-swallowing insects. Guwen wasn't just showing off, he wanted to prevent the servants from attacking the patrolling insects in the future. Seasons passed, and 3 years went by quickly. Guwen crossed the 50-year mark. These 3 years had been peaceful and fulfilling. His lifespan had exceeded 300,000 years and continued to increase annually. One day, Xiaochuan arrived at the transmission array platform with Yi Lan. Guwen was playing with a white spirit rat as big as a dog. When he saw Yi Lan coming, he immediately got up to greet her. Yi Lan's face looked troubled. Facing Guwen, she said, "Senior brother, let's talk inside." Guwen nodded and led Yi Lan upstairs. Xiaochuan went towards the white spirit rat, but it turned and ran away. Angry, Xiaochuan picked up a stone to throw at it but missed. Meanwhile, Guwen closed the door after entering the room. He had just turned around when Yi Lan spoke. "Senior brother, Wuxin is a spy from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion." Upon hearing this, Gu An's expression changed slightly. He frowned and asked, "Nonsense, what evidence do you have?" Yi Lan took out several sheets of paper and said, "These are all records left by the Demon Extermination Hall of the Disciples. The person who brought Wuxin into the sect was not a demonic spy, but his subsequent connections were all demonic spies. Besides, the Thousand Autumn Pavilion has been searching for the son of a pavilion master, who happens to be a monk with indelible scars on his head." Guwen took the papers and examined them closely. The papers outlined the interactions of the spies, including visits Wuxin had made to the Outer Gate City to see them. Careless. Why didn't he act more prudently? Guwen silently cursed but didn't panic, as Yi Lan was the one who discovered this. After reading, Guwen looked up at Yi Lan and asked, "How many people know about this?" "Just me for now. The law enforcement hall usually doesn't investigate servant disciples. We discovered that there's a valley master in the outer sect's Medicine Valley working for the Thousand Autumn Pavilion, but we haven't identified who it is yet. We wanted to investigate further, but someone above us ordered us to stop," Yi Lan said angrily. Who ordered you to stop? Outer sect Great Elder, Xianxia, but her people said it was an order from the inner sect. Guwen suddenly thought that Xianxia being the outer sect Great Elder might actually be beneficial, as she could shield him. Although Guwen had never worked for the Thousand Autumn Pavilion, the green vine tree made it impossible to wash his hands clean, and he didn't want his peaceful farming life disturbed. Guwen stepped forward, grabbing Yilan's shoulders, and took a deep breath, saying, "Junior sister, this matter must be suppressed. Even if Wuxia is from the demonic path, after so many years together, I believe he is not a bad person." Blushing, Yilan lowered her eyes and said, "Senior brother, are you also from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion? If you are, I'm willing to go with you." "How could that be? I was born as a person of the Supreme Sect, and I will die as a ghost of the Supreme Sect. I don't care, wherever you go, take me with you." "Can you suppress this matter then?" "Yes, the other evidence has been destroyed, only what's in your hand remains." Guwen released her and threw the papers into his storage bag. "Better keep it just in case." Yilan then said, "This is actually a minor issue. I know you will protect him. I came to tell you something bigger. The demonic path is preparing to attack the Supreme Sect, and this time, it's real. Someone in the Hall of Elders in the main city has betrayed the Supreme Sect. This information came from a law enforcement hall spy within the Wanin sect and has been reported upwards. The 4 inner sect cities are preparing for war. There are many cultivators from other sects and dynasties in the outer sect. They have been there for years and can't be expelled easily. If the demonic path attacks, the outer gate city might be very dangerous, with demonic spies possibly aiding the enemy." "Demonic path attack?" Guwen frowned and asked. "The Supreme Sect's disciple count has skyrocketed over the years. How dare they attack?" "They've allied with the Demon Clan, planning to destroy the Supreme Sect and then divide up the Taizong dynasty," Yilan replied with a serious expression. "Allied with the Demon Clan?" Guwen was puzzled. Didn't these demonic sects know about the upcoming 100-year demonic calamity? After sharing more information, Yilan left in a hurry. Guwen personally escorted her to the transmission array platform to send her to the Mystic Valley and then the outer gate city to follow protocol. Returning to his room, Guwen suddenly noticed Elder Tion sitting under an old tree. It had been a while since he last checked on Elder Tion. The old guy had his cultivation level increased by 2 layers at the heavenly repair platform, but had been quiet ever since, which was strange. As he thought about this, Guwen cast a lifespan detection spell. Chapter 82: The Battle Between Good and Evil, Protecting Medicine Valley, LV Bayin, Core Formation Realm 3rd Layer 754/1050/3200, Core Formation Realm 3rd Layer? Seeing Elder Tion's cultivation level rising so high, Guwen was secretly alarmed. He had better keep an eye on Elder Tion frequently. What if one day he surpassed him and he didn't even know? Guwen realized that the higher the realm, the more cultivators practiced the energy-concealing sorcery. It was very difficult to judge an opponent's cultivation level based solely on sensory perception. In other words, the immortal cultivation world was all about who could conceal themselves better. Fortunately, he concealed himself deeply enough. He was confident he could continue to do so. Elder Tion seemed to sense Guwen's gaze. He opened his eyes and looked at him. Guwen gave a slight nod, then returned to his room. The demon path was about to attack, but he did not panic at all. He went about his usual business. The Supreme Sect was not a soft target, especially with Elder Tion, this hidden sect leader, secretly gaining power. What Guwen needed to do was protect his Medicine Valley. At the end of summer, the weather was cool. Guwen walked within the outer gate city and found that the number of disciples from the law enforcement hall in the city had increased significantly. There were also many divinity transformation realm auras on the city walls in all directions. The whole city exuded a tense and murderous atmosphere. The demon path was really coming. As usual, he first went to the heavenly repair platform to take a look. The underworld demon emperor and the ghost mother of ephemera were still there. The two seemed like ascetics, sitting alone in meditation, with no other hidden demons around. Guwen always felt that the underworld demon emperor might be related to the demon path, but he was reluctant to report it for fear of being dragged into the whirlpool. His goal was longevity. Would the supreme sect still exist after 10,000 years? He was never someone with great noble aspirations. He was just an ordinary person. After scanning the surroundings, Guwen did not see any powerful unfamiliar faces. It seemed that the supreme sect had recently been strict in controlling outsiders, only permitting them to leave while barring them from entering. Afterward, Guwen visited Xianxia. Xianxia was not in her residence. Her servant asked him to wait in the hall. Standing in the main hall, Guwen observed the surroundings. He could feel the presence of very intricate restrictions here, which could not be seen with the naked eye. The Ziwei array chronicles Xianxia gave him, he had often read, and he had built a considerable understanding of formations. So now he could see some of it. While observing, Guwen suddenly felt something, and his expression turned strange. There was a large space beneath this residence, just like the 8 scenic caves below the Mystic Valley. An ancient hour later, Xianxia finally returned. When she entered the hall, she waved her right hand, and the door closed with a bang. Guwen stood up and looked at her. She walked to the main seat and sat down, saying, "No need for formalities. Sit down." Her face looked somber, clearly having encountered unpleasant matters. Guwen took a storage bag from his waist and placed it on the table beside her, saying, "This is the first batch of mature medicinal herbs. Please check them." The grade and rank of Xianxia's medicinal herbs were all quite high, so the first batch of medicinal herbs had just matured now. Xianxia did not take the storage bag but instead asked, "You must have other matters. Otherwise, you could have let Huemo do the checking." Guwen nodded and said, "I have received news that the demon path plans to besiege the supreme sect. Is it true?" This was something best to ask the demon path about. Xianxia nodded and said, "That's correct. Within half a year at most, the righteous and demonic war of the Taizong dynasty will break out. The reason is that the supreme sect has been continuously growing, making the demon path uneasy. Additionally, with the help of the demon clan, the two sides joining forces indeed have a chance to defeat the supreme sect." Guwen hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I heard that 100 years later, demons outside the 9 dynasties will invade the 9 dynasties. Shouldn't we be striving for peace and working hard on cultivation at this time? And how can the demon clan be trusted?" Hearing this, Xianxia glanced at him and snorted softly. "Do you think the demon clan is of one mind? The demons outside the 9 dynasties are not purely demon clan. If they break in, the demon clan will also face slaughter. As for the human race, when have they ever truly united? The more dangerous the situation, the more they fight. The resources in the immortal cultivation world of the 9 dynasties are limited. The stronger the supreme sect becomes, the more it squeezes the cultivation resources of other sections. Historically, the so-called righteous and demonic struggles have actually been battles for resources. They just need a justified cause. This time, the demon path is launching a war under the banner of the supreme sect's evil deeds. Soon you will hear about it. When the supreme sect's morale wavers, the demon path will launch an attack. If they succeed, the righteous and demonic stances will reverse. If they fail, the supreme sect will have no strength left to eradicate the demon path. After hearing this, Guwen remained silent. He was the one who could feel this the most. Each time he broke through, he absorbed a large amount of spiritual energy, thereby affecting the supreme sect. If all the spiritual energy and spirit stones of the entire dynasty were concentrated in one sect, the chances of breakthroughs for the authority holders in that sect would be much greater. So even if the calamity of the demons was only 100 years away, they still contended for it. Or rather, what the great cultivators cared about was not the common people but their own cultivation levels. As long as they were strong enough, they could even venture south to the sea to seek immortal destiny. Guwen thought for a moment and asked, "Martial Master, which side are you on?" Xianxia smiled and said, "I stand on the side of the victors. Don't worry. I can ensure that our outer gate city remains safe." Moreover, there are too many great cultivators in this city. The demon path will not attack from this direction. Upon hearing this, Guwen secretly breathed a sigh of relief and laughed. As long as it doesn't endanger my medicine valley, that's enough. Scared now? I told you to cultivate more often, but you didn't listen. Cultivation is not something that can be rushed. Humph, you are just lucky to have a martial master like me. Before you go, find Huemo. I have already prepared a batch of Immortal cultivation elixirs for you in advance to help boost your cultivation level. You are already 50 years old, still not in core formation realm, what a waste. Don't ever say that you are my disciple's grandson. Thank you, martial master, Guwen said with a smile, but inside he was grumbling. A 50-year-old at Unification Realm 9th layer, have you ever heard of it? It would scare you to death if you knew. Next, Guwen inquired about the cultivation level of the strongest member of the demon path, but Xianxia didn't know. She candidly said that if LV Baitin were still present, the demon path would certainly not dare to invade. But now that the sect leader was Chu Tianqi, the battle between the strongest of the righteous and the demonic factions would be difficult to determine. These words made Guwen feel sympathy for the demon path. LV Baitin was not dead yet. By the way, martial master, have you ever heard of the underworld demon emperor? Guwen suddenly asked. Xianxia thought for a moment and shook her head. I've never heard of him. But it's nothing. I just read about him in a book. He's supposed to be very powerful. Since you don't know, then never mind. I should take my leave. Guwen answered, then stood up, saluted, and turned to leave. Xianxia watched his back, lost in thought. After talking with Xianxia, Guwen's worries about the righteous and demonic war eased significantly. His days returned to being as peaceful as before. 3 months later, at the end of autumn, the third Medicine Valley was still covered with many withered yellow leaves. In the early morning, Guwen was leading his disciples in exercises, with Elder Tian also participating. Only Guwen noticed that his body was sturdier than before. This guy's cultivation level had already reached core formation realm 9th layer. Guwen had no idea how he managed to cultivate. Whenever Guwen was around, he never caused a spiritual energy disturbance. After the exercises, Guwen dismissed the disciples and headed towards the pavilion. 16 ancient gold-swallowing insects circled him, making him appear surrounded by golden stars. Just as he reached the bottom of the building, he stopped. He saw 2 figures swiftly approaching from the horizon. It was Vice Sect Leader Xianxia and Elder Guzong. Checking the medicinal herbs in the garden, Elder Tian glanced back and then turned away. After Guzong and Xianxia landed, they called Guwen upstairs to talk. Upon entering the room, Guzong, as usual, laid down a restriction. Bang! Xianxia suddenly slammed the table, causing Guwen's heart to race. Damn it! Every time they came, they had to slam the table? Guwen really wanted to use the great yin-yang transformation, transform into a demon cultivator, and beat Xianxia violently. The furniture in this room was made of the finest wood. If it got damaged, he would feel a pang of heartache. Chu Tianqi has gone too far. I didn't expect the entire Chu family to be rotten to the core. Pan En, you must write a book about this and show it to the world. The Supreme Sect is the orthodox sect of the world and must be supervised by the world. Xianxia said furiously. Again? Guwen remained silent. He shouldn't have shown mercy back then. Guzong sat down and said impatiently, "What's the rush? It seems you are completely unaware of his actions. I think you just want to be the sect leader. This time, don't use Pan En as a tool. Pan En is the banner of the Supreme Sect's disciples. This banner cannot become a weapon in the sect's power struggle." Guwen looked at Guzong. At least he made sense. Xianxia sighed and said, "It's true, I want to be sect leader. I believe that if I become the sect leader, I can lead the Supreme Sect to greater heights. Look at the mess Chu Tianqi has made. His men are manufacturing demons of greed, and someone even plans to sacrifice an entire outer sect. I once thought he was the sword venerable Fudao and trusted him, but he is not. Now the demon path is aggressive. Anti-Chu Tianqi sentiments have spread within the sect, morale is shaken, and the supreme sect is in grave danger. Manufacturing demons of greed? Guwen was astonished. He had thought it was the Chu family's enemies creating the demons of greed per Chu Jingfeng's words. It seemed there were deeper secrets. Was it a clan feud or a self-directed act? Chu Tianqi is indeed disappointing. When he punished Chu Xian's descendants back then, I thought he was sacrificing kin for the greater good. Now it seems it was just self-preservation. However, taking down Chu Tianqi is not easy. Many in the Hall of Elders were promoted by him, and he has good relations with the Daodan sect. Gu Zong shook his head as he spoke. Hearing this, Guwen was confused. What were these two playing at? What was the point of discussing such matters with an outer disciple? They were probably putting on an act to stir his feelings, trying to make him outraged and willing to expose the dark side of the supreme sect. The two continued to criticize Chu Tianqi, listing his various wrongdoing deeds. As Guwen listened, he couldn't help but feel a surge of anger. If Chu Tianqi had truly done all this, he was indeed unforgivable. However, Guwen remained rational and unmoved. Gu Zong looked at Guwen and said, "The supreme sect may face calamity soon. Your third medicine valley has too many medicinal herbs. It needs protection. We plan to send 50 core formation realm cultivators to guard the third medicine valley. What do you think?" Ji Hantian added, "The Gu and Ji families will each send 25 people. By the way, Xiaoyu is among them. This way, not only will she help you guard the medicine valley, but she will also stay away from the war." Chapter 83 Gathering Spirit Divine Finger, You Are Mine, 50 Core Formation Realm Cultivators? Guwen naturally did not refuse. After all, he couldn't always guard the third medicine valley himself. He immediately bowed to thank the two from the ancient sect. An hour later, the two from the ancient sect departed, and Guwen saw them off outside the building. After they left, Elder Tian walked over, curiously asked, "Valley Master, what did they come to see you for?" In the past, Elder Tian would not have asked. Now, not only was his cultivation level rising, but he also dared to inquire about the Valley Master's important matters. It seemed he was indeed making a comeback. Guwen feigned hesitation and then divulged what he had learned. Chu Tianqi's crimes were exposed by the demon path and spread like wildfire through the supreme sect. The 5 great sects of the demon path prepared to join forces with the demon clan to besiege the supreme sect. Various incidents came out of his mouth, paired with his worried expression. It seemed as if the supreme sect was facing imminent disaster. Elder Tian comforted him, "Valley Master, no need to worry. The supreme sect has stood on this land for thousands of years, enduring countless dynastic changes. Historical records show several instances of being besieged by the demon path, yet they have always survived the danger." Upon hearing his words, Guwen indeed felt reassured. True, if the sky were to fall, there would be taller people to hold it up. I am just here to plant medicinal herbs well and provide alchemical materials for the sect. That is the only contribution I can make. Guwen shook his head and laughed. Elder Tian nodded with a smile. He appreciated Guwen's temperament. Still, since the demon path is coming, danger is inevitable. Valley Master, I have a set of finger techniques, sharp and cunning. If the enemy is careless, it may even allow you to kill opponents above your level. Let me teach you. Elder Tian continued. Guwen had never learned any finger techniques before, so naturally, he was interested. He asked curiously, "Elder Tian, why do I feel like your background is not simple, knowing and capable of so much?" An old man who has lived long naturally has some knowledge. Elder Tian laughed heartily, no longer had the timid demeanor of the past. Guwen felt a sense of authority from him, fit for the head of a sect. Then, Guwen followed Elder Tian into the nearby forest. According to Elder Tian, this technique should not be transmitted. He was making an exception to teach it to Guwen. After entering the woods, Elder Tian began to explain the prowess of this finger technique. Gathering Spirit Divine Finger. This finger technique could gather spiritual power and spiritual energy onto the fingertip, storing power to be released. The longer the compression time, the greater the destructive power. In theory, it had no limit. After listening, Guwen became even more interested in the gathering spirit divine finger. The ancient sect and Xianxia moved quickly. 2 days later, 50 core formation realm cultivators arrived, including Gu An's son Guyu. Guyu was the first to come to Gu An's pavilion to look for him. Your connections are truly vast. Being able to have the Gu family and Ji family each send 25 core formation realm disciples to protect you. These people are not just supreme sect disciples, they're all noble family offspring. Guyu sat down, teasingly remarked. Guwen replied, "It's probably not to protect me, but to protect this Medicine Valley." Is there another such large Medicine Valley in the Supreme Sect? There is, but not as large, and definitely not in the outer or inner sections. Mainly, it's because your identity as Pan and makes the higher-ups take notice. If it's because of Pan Ennis' identity, such ostentation exposes me, doesn't it? True. In truth, Guwen believed that the Supreme Sect was not protecting the Medicine Valley, but the 7th grade spirit tree within it, the Mystic Pure Tree. Guyu did not dwell on this. He mysteriously took out a book and said, "Guwen, you must read this book, it's too wonderful, and even has illustrations." Guwen glanced at it, feeling speechless. Supreme's secret records. Guyu had changed. He no longer pursued the latest updates on the Supreme Immortal Venerable. Guwen felt a surge of frustration. Restraining his displeasure, he took the Supreme's secret records. After flipping through a few pages, he was captivated. Goodness, Shenzhen had actually stolen techniques. The illustrations used comic-like action strokes, allowing one to imagine an entire sequence of movements, sparking endless thoughts. He faked a cough, closed the Supreme's secret records, and tucked it into his chest, saying, "I'll read it later. With the demon path about to invade, I don't have the mind to read right now." Guyu secretly despised him, but outwardly said, "True, but keep this book safe. The Supreme Sect has been conducting strict inspections lately, making it hard to get this book. Rest assured." After a few more words, they went downstairs. Guyu flew to his designated post, while Guwen began patrolling the medicinal herbs along the way. The 3rd Medicine Valley was vast, and now he could harvest almost every day, but he preferred to collect once a week. After all, even if the herbs matured, leaving them for a week wouldn't affect them much. An hour later, as Guwen walked through the forest path, he sensed Ji Xiaoyu's presence. After some hesitation, he decided to pay a visit. Ji Xiaoyu had saved him, given him talisman treasures, formations, and a batch of medicinal herbs. It wouldn't be right not to greet her. After another half-hour of wandering, Guwen arrived at a mountaintop. Ji Xiaoyu, in a purple robe, was meditating at the edge of the cliff, facing away from the 3rd Medicine Valley, with formations set around her, making Guwen hesitant to cross the boundary. "Greetings, 3rd Mississippi." Guwen cupped his hands in salute. He directly cast a lifespan detection. Ji Xiaoyu, Core Formation Realm 5th Layer 50/1400/8900, Core Formation Realm 5th Layer. Truly quick. With her back to him, Ji Xiaoyu said, "No need to come visit me in the future, you are the Valley Master of this Medicine Valley, formalities are unnecessary. If 3rd Miss needs anything, you can always find me, or tell the disciples in the valley," Guwen replied. Ji Xiaoyu responded. Guwen suddenly didn't know what to say, so he prepared to take his leave. Ji Xiaoyu suddenly said, "Xianxia is my great-grandfather. If he makes unreasonable demands on you, you can come to me. After all, you belong to me." Guwen hurriedly replied, "The vice sect leader hasn't troubled me. I know him too well. Since childhood, he used me to build momentum. Knowing you are Pan, and he certainly won't miss the chance to use you. In the Supreme Sect, you can use my name to refuse any request you find difficult to turn down." Ji Xiaoyu's words brought a smile to Gu An's face. "Another patron. Right, another investiture of the gods. I find your writings the most enjoyable." Ji Xiaoyu suddenly said. "So, she was also a reader?" Guwen replied, saying he was already preparing it. "You may leave now." Upon hearing this, Guin immediately saluted and departed. By evening, Guin arrived in Xianxia Valley for the harvest day, expecting to collect 5,000 or 6,000 years of lifespan. Upon entering the valley, he felt a long-missed presence. Li Xiandao. Why was he here? Was there not a demon rebellion in Changluo, Songzhou? "Valley Master, His Majesty is here. Quickly go meet him inside." Luo Hun called from halfway up the mountain. Guin nodded and then hurried toward the cluster of pavilions. Li Xiandao was staying in his pavilion, with LV Xian and Iluyun accompanying him. Upon seeing Guin enter, Li Xiandao smiled, motioned for LV Xian to be silent, and then smiled at Guin. "Guin, long time no see. How is your cultivation progressing?" After respectfully saluting, Guin replied, "It's progressing well. Thanks to your Majesty dividing so many herbal materials for me, I have now reached the 3rd layer of the foundation establishment realm. The 3rd layer is not enough, you must work harder. As long as you reach the 9th layer of the foundation establishment realm, I can help you form a core." "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will certainly work hard." As Guin answered, he deliberately avoided looking at LV Xian. LV Xian glared at him, as if wanting to devour him, his expression both angry and resentful. Having taught Guin for so long, Guin had learned nothing. If it were not for Guin only coming once or twice a month, he would have suspected Guin was deliberately messing with him. Li Xiandao gestured for Guin to sit at the table, and Guin did so without hesitation. LV Xian and Iluyun remained standing, making LV Xian even more dissatisfied. Li Xiandao looked at Guin, examined him briefly, and softly asked, "Has anything significant happened in the Supreme Sect recently?" Guin frowned, hesitated, and said, "I heard the Demon Path plans to besiege the Supreme Sect, and there are unfavorable rumors about the sect leader within the sect." He recounted what he had heard in detail, but did not mention his 3rd Medicine Valley. After Guin finished, Li Zuando's smile deepened, he laughed. "Chu Tianqi is proud and arrogant, looks down on everyone, even his kin are seen as pawns. It's not surprising he did these things. My informant in the Demon Path also sent word. At the end of the year, the Demon Path will launch a full-scale attack on the Supreme Sect." Guin began to ponder Li Zuando's attitude toward the Supreme Sect. He asked confusedly, "Doesn't the Demon Path fear Sword Venerable Fudao? They say Sword Venerable Fudao is the world's foremost sword cultivator." Li Xiandao shook his head. "Of course they fear him, that's why they have waited until now to act. The true identity of Sword Venerable Fudao has been revealed within the Demon Path. While that person is strong, he is not invincible." "That person?" Guin was astonished. Someone was impersonating Laozi's fame? Li Xiandao again looked at Guin, earnestly said, "A great battle between righteous and demonic forces is about to erupt. By rights, I should have you withdraw, but with Li Yi still there, I need you to keep an eye on the Supreme Sect for me. I will arrange for a nascent soul realm cultivator to protect you. How about that?" Guin thanked him repeatedly, then said, "Uncle, there's no need. I am just an outer sect disciple, unknown to the Demon Path. Assigning me a nascent soul realm cultivator would instead attract high-level attention from the Demon Path. Don't worry. This person is adept at concealing their energy. Even if their cultivation level is far above, they won't be detected." Li Xiandao waved his hand dismissively. "Can't refuse?" Guin looked at Li Xiandao, weighing his options. Li Xiandao continued, "You are my man, I naturally can't let anything happen to you. Besides, this person has a very good relationship with Li Yi. You could introduce them to Li Yi later." With it said to such an extent, Guin certainly couldn't refuse. Half an hour later, Guin took his leave and began to harvest the mature medicinal herbs. Li Xiandao, from within the pavilion, could see Guin working diligently. He sighed, "This youngster is steady in his work, very much to my liking. You must take good care of him." LV Xian couldn't help but say, "Your Majesty, are you hinting at me? I just want to ask, who is more important to you among Li Yi and the Crown Prince?" Iluyun frowned but did not stop LV Xian. Li Xiandao chuckled. They are both important. What are you worried about? Li Ya isn't staying in Changluo. He poses no threat to the crown prince, unless what? Unless Li Ya masters the emperor-level sword technique. Chapter 84 Shrouding the Sky and Blocking the Sun, Heaven-Swallowing Dark Bird. Learning the emperor-level sword technique secures the position of crown prince? Guwen picked herbs while eavesdropping. The emperor-level sword technique? Now that was something he knew well. In the future, perhaps he could ask Li Ya about it. If Li Ya wanted to compete for the throne, he might offer some pointers. Wait, this old man had some malicious intentions. Guwen felt uneasy, suddenly suspecting that Li Xiandao had said it deliberately for him to hear, as the pavilion hadn't been isolated by any restrictive barriers. Another thought struck him. Li Zuando's ambition was to become an immortal emperor. For an emperor, the greatest threat could be the crown prince. Even without pursuing immortal cultivation, a mortal emperor in his old age would be wary of the crown prince. Not many crown princes smoothly inherit the throne. Could it be that Li Xiandao wanted to use Li Ya to eliminate the crown prince? It's quite possible. Guwen stopped thinking about it, focusing on picking herbs and letting the father and son deal with each other. Because of Li Zuando's presence, Guwen didn't leave immediately after finishing collecting the herbs. He only left the next morning. When he was leaving, Li Xiandao hadn't left yet, saying he wanted to stay for a while longer. Guwen suspected that Li Xiandao wanted to watch the drama of the righteous and demonic conflict. After returning to Mystic Valley, Guwen instructed Wuxin and others, telling them that the demon path was about to invade and that they shouldn't wander around casually, making all the disciples, including Wuxin, very nervous. Guwen planned to stay overnight in Mystic Valley from now on. The third Medicine Valley had Elder Tian and 50 core formation realm cultivators, making it very safe. Mystic Valley was different, with only a group of servant disciples. Currently, Mystic Valley contributed less and less to his lifespan income, but the 8 scenic caves beneath Mystic Valley were different. Even if Mystic Valley's lifespan income wasn't much, he was reluctant to abandon it. 10 days later, the nascent Soul Realm cultivator arranged by Li Xiandao arrived at Mystic Valley. Guwen stood in front of the wooden fence, watching from a distance as a woman in green with a sword walked over, her conical hat swaying in the cold wind, accentuating her ethereal presence. Yang and I, Nascent Soul Realm, 9 layers 214/780/1360, a Nascent Soul Realm cultivator at 200 years old, quite impressive quality. Guwen thought silently, then stepped towards Yang and I. I am Guwen, the Valley Master of this Medicine Valley. May I know who you are? As he approached, he raised his hand and asked. Yang and I suddenly appeared in front of him, so he pretended to be startled and took a step back. Let me see your other Valley Master token. Yang and I transmitted her voice, her tone cold yet melodious. Just by the sound, one could tell she was a beauty. Guwen immediately produced the token from Tianya Valley. Yang and I snatched it, inspected it, and then returned it to him. I was sent by His Majesty to protect you. I will be your outer disciple from now on. Yang and I transmitted her voice again. Guwen nodded and said, You must have been recommended by Elder Han. I have been waiting for you for a long time. After saying this, he turned and led Yang and I towards the pavilion. Yang and I followed him inside, attracting curious glances from other disciples in the valley. Her appearance naturally drew people to take a second look. Once inside, Guwen closed the door and said, Everyone here is in the Qi cultivation realm, so you don't need to worry. Yang and I waved her hand, and spiritual power turned into a green restriction, imprinting on the door. Very cautious. After doing this, Yang and I walked to the table, put down her treasure sword, and removed her conical hat, letting her waterfall-like white hair cascade down. She turned to look at Guwen, her face remarkably youthful, appearing just over 20. Her features were exquisite and delicate, but her eyes carried a coldness that gave her the aura of an ice queen. This coldness made it easy to overlook her beauty, making people afraid to look directly at her. She scrutinized Guwen and asked, I heard you have a good relationship with Liya? Indeed, senior brother Li was also a servant disciple in this Medicine Valley. We joined on the same day. Guan responded. Hearing this, Yang and I smiled, her smile stunningly captivating. Guan didn't think much of it, as he knew Ji Xiaoyu was even more beautiful. That stubborn child never got along with his siblings, yet he managed to build a friendship with a servant disciple like you. Yang and I said, admiringly. That statement. From her storage bag, Yang and I took out a blue jade bracelet, saying, this is a top-grade magic artifact that can store spiritual power. Consider it a gift for our first meeting. Store spiritual power? How rare. Guan quickly waved his hand and said, I can't accept this. You are here to protect me, how could I dare to take your gift? Just take it. Liya's mother is my sister. Since you're close to Liya, you're naturally considered my junior. Yang and I said impatiently, tossing the jade bracelet to him and then turning to the bookshelf. You go about your business, don't concern yourself with me. Guan caught the jade bracelet, wanting to say this was his building and it wasn't convenient. But seeing Yang and I's stance, obviously wanting to stay, he could only give up. Ever since his encounter with Shenzhen, Guan no longer left anything incriminating in the building, so he hesitated briefly before leaving without disturbing Yang and I. Yang and I's presence didn't disrupt the rhythm of life in Mystic Valley, as she rarely left her room and didn't interact with other disciples. When Guan planned to go to the third Medicine Valley, she insisted on accompanying him, leaving him no choice but to take her along. Upon arriving at the third Medicine Valley, she was shocked, beginning to reassess Guan. This servant disciple was no simple character. Guan also wasn't afraid to shed report to Li Xiandao. Perhaps Li Xiandao had long discovered the third Medicine Valley. It was hard to hide this matter. After all, he had a clear conscience. If Li Xiandao grew suspicious of him because of this, he didn't care. In his mind, he feared Li Xiandao far less than the Supreme Sect. Thus, Yang and I followed Guan as he patrolled the Medicine Valley, watching him pick herbs and sow seeds. A month later, Yang and I developed some goodwill towards Guan. Guan was too honest and treated the servant disciples very kindly. Such a person posed no threat to anyone. She also understood why Liya could favor Guan. Days passed one after another. Snowflakes flew, covering every part of Guan's Medicine Valley. Li Xiandao had said that the demon path would invade the Supreme Sect at the end of the year, making Guan worry about this every day. Perhaps any day now, the demon path would attack. On this day, Mystic Valley, Guan and Wuxin led the disciples in shoveling snow, with Yang and I standing at a distance by the wooden fence, holding her sword. Senior brother, what realm is that outer disciple in? Wuxin whispered to Guan, very curious. Yang and I's stance alone looked very strong. What's it to you? She's my disciple, don't get any ideas. Guan said in a bad mood. Wuxin chuckled, senior brother, you know me so well. When are you going to get me a Foundation Establishment Realm disciple as an assistant? I would be so impressive wherever I go. If I really arranged it, would you dare accept? Hearing this, Wuxin seemed to remember something, grinning awkwardly and falling silent. Guan continued to shovel snow. After a while, he seemed to sense something, furrowing his brow, but he didn't stop working. In the distance, Yang and I also sensed something. She leaped to the southern mountaintop, attracting everyone's gaze in the valley. Snow flew incessantly, casting the world in a white blur. From within the valley, Yang and I's silhouette on the mountaintop appeared faint, as if she might be swallowed by the violent snowstorm at any moment. What's wrong with her? Wuxin couldn't help but ask Guan. Guan looked up and said, I don't know either, well ask her when she comes down. Goo goo, a light bird cry echoed, reverberating through the world, even masking the sound of the wind. The sudden bird cry made everyone frown, looking around, trying to find the source of the sound. Wuxin seemed to remember something, his face changing dramatically. He hurriedly shouted, everyone back to the rooms. Quick! As he spoke, he pulled Guan towards the pavilion group. Guan shook off his hand and said, you all head inside, I need to watch the Medicine Valley. Wuxia turned and said urgently, "That's the heaven-swallowing dark bird of the Thousand Autumn Pavilion, a demonic beast that Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators can't deal with. You go inside first. I'm not going to fight it. Don't forget your identity," Guwen said sternly. Hearing this, Wuxia could only grit his teeth and run inside. Soon, only Guwen remained in the valley, while the disciples all leaned out of their windows, watching the sky in extreme tension. Guwen already sensed the presence of the heaven-swallowing dark bird. Very strong, comparable to the void-crossing realm. Whoosh! A fierce wind came from the south, stirring up a snowstorm that swept through the Medicine Valley. Guwen, watching the swaying herbs, felt distressed but couldn't expose his cultivation level in front of Yang and I and the other disciples. He could only go to the section with the highest grade herbs and use his Foundation Establishment Realm spiritual power to protect them. At this moment, Yang and I suddenly appeared beside him, taking out a large flag and planting it in the ground. She raised her palm to infuse spiritual power into the flagpole. The flag fluttered, forming a light screen that enveloped them, blocking the wind and snow. Yang and I breathed a sigh of relief, turning to Guwen and scolding, "Are you crazy? What do these herbs have to do with you? Can't you sense the demonic chi?" Guwen replied, "I sensed it, but if I can sense it, the great cultivators from the Supreme Sect will definitely..." Boom! A terrifying pressure descended suddenly. Guwen looked up, as did Wuxia and the other disciples. Everyone's eyes widened. The vast snowy mist was dispersed, revealing an enormous bird covering the sky. It flew over Mystic Valley, plunging the valley into darkness that wouldn't dissipate for some time. Even someone as calm as Guwen was stunned by the heaven-swallowing dark bird's size. In his view, its wingspan exceeded 100 miles, extremely exaggerated. On the bird's back were numerous demonic cultivators, at least 10,000 of them. Its destination was precisely the outer gate city of the Supreme Sect. That's the heaven-swallowing dark bird of the Thousand Autumn Pavilion, a 6th-tier demonic beast with the power to destroy empires. It's my first time seeing it too. Yang and I muttered, gazing up at the sky in awe, her eyes showing fear. Guwen didn't say anything, focusing on the heaven-swallowing dark bird, hoping it wouldn't target his Mystic Valley. When the bird flew past Mystic Valley, sunlight poured down, illuminating the Medicine Valley while snowflakes fell, creating a scene of cascading white mist. All the disciples in the valley sighed in relief at this sight. Guwen already sensed the aura of great cultivators fighting in the distance. Void crossing realm. And there were more than two. The battle was quite far away, likely occurring at another outer gate city. Chapter 85. The First Trial of the Divine Finger, Su Lian Demon Lord Outer Gate City. The city wall was lined with outer disciples, including Yi Lan and Zhen Qin. They frowned and looked into the distance. Not just them, all the disciples were looking in the same direction, as if facing a great enemy. Heavy snow covered the land and mountains. The wind howled, and amidst the swirling snow, the outlines of mountains could be seen faintly. Goo-goo. A mysterious bird cry rang out again, as if beings from the underworld were approaching, causing the hearts of the disciples on the wall to pound like war drums. Gradually, a shadow appeared in the snow-covered expanse, making all the disciples' faces change. What is that?" Zhen Qin stammered, her voice low as if asking herself. Yilan's eyes were also wide open. She considered herself knowledgeable, yet she was stunned by the current sight. The enormous shadow resembled a black ocean advancing, vast and boundless, connecting the ends of the sky. The mysterious bird cries grew louder. Anyone facing such a huge shadow would feel fear, as if an abyss was approaching. A tremendous pressure emanated from within the city, startling the disciples into turning their heads. They saw dozens of flying swords soaring into the sky, surrounded by golden spiritual power. With a roar, the flying swords shot forward, gathering golden spiritual power together, resembling a giant golden phoenix flying over the city wall. The golden phoenix spread its wings over 100 feet wide, magnificent in momentum. Yet, when it flew towards the terrifying shadow at the horizon, it seemed small. The golden phoenix tore through the flying snow, unstoppable, crashing into the terrifying shadow. Immediately, golden light burst forth. The howling wind and snow forced the outer disciples on the wall to raise their arms to shield themselves. "Your Excellency, Demon Emperor, what are you waiting for?" A cold voice rang out, drowning out all other sounds in the world. On the heavenly repair platform, the underworld Demon Emperor slowly rose. In the distance, a great cultivator at the 5th level of the void-crossing realm stood up facing him, their eyes meeting. "I didn't expect you to be the legendary underworld Demon Emperor. You hid well." This supreme sect elder spoke coldly, raising his right hand, a jade ruler appearing in his grasp. Several other supreme sect cultivators stood up, each exuding an aura far surpassing the divinity transformation realm, causing the other cultivators on the platform to stand up and retreat. The ghost mother of ephemera retreated as well, looking no different from ordinary cultivators. Heh. The underworld Demon Emperor let out a chilling laugh. His calm face quickly contorted as waves of demonic chi surged from his robe, spreading in all directions. Rumble. The sound of thunder came from the sky, as rolling thunderclouds surged from all directions, pressing down on the flying snow, forming a thick white mist, creating an oppressive atmosphere. The underworld Demon Emperor raised his eyes, a mocking expression on his face. He suddenly squatted down, slapping the ground, causing the demonic chi covering the heavenly repair platform to churn violently. Evil ghosts crawled out of the demonic fog, letting out roars that shook the heavens and earth. The great battle between righteous and demon paths erupted. In Mystic Valley, Guan was leading the disciples in inspecting the medicinal herbs. The wind howled, causing snow on the mountains to slide continuously, and the distant rumbling persisted. Yang and I stood next to Guan, not shoveling snow, her eyes fixed on the sky, frowning. Wuxia approached Guan nervously. "Senior brother, the commotion is quite loud." Guan cursed inwardly. Didn't Jiang Qiong say it wouldn't reach this outer gate city? Why did it feel like the demon path was invading from here? "Don't worry, the supreme sect won't be easily breached," Guan consoled. He felt the intense demonic chi in the outer gate city but didn't know where it came from. Wuxia was worried, but his hands didn't stop moving, a result of Guan's years of teaching. As thunderclouds gradually covered the sky, the snow began to weaken, which was good for Mystic Valley. After clearing the snow from various gardens, Guan had Wuxia gather the disciples together while he and Yang and I stood far away. "Can the supreme sect really hold out? What is that sound? It's terrifying." "I don't know what the situation is in the outer gate city. It's a good thing we're in the Medicine Valley. Who knows, maybe a demon cultivator will target us." "Shut up, you jinx." The disciples were tense and fearful, unable to calm down. The pressure from the great cultivator's battle, the demonic chi, the demonic pressure, and various other conditions stimulated their senses. They had never experienced such feelings before. Guan glanced at the disciples 100 feet away, then looked at Yang and I beside him, asking via voice transmission, "With your strength, how strong an enemy can you deal with?" "As long as it's not a divinity transformation realm, I can kill as many as come." Yang and I's response was confident, but Guan wasn't pleased, because it was certain there would be divinity transformation realm enemies. At this moment, a figure flew in from the distance at high speed, landing quickly in the valley. "Who else but Leah?" "Senior brother Li," Wuxia called out in surprise. Leah was an inner sect disciple, a genuine core formation realm expert. His arrival was enough to excite Wuxia. As for Yang and I, Wuxia viewed her as merely a foundation establishment realm cultivator, surely not as strong as Leah. Leah ignored Wuxia, quickly approaching Guan, his gaze assessing Yang and I with a slight frown. He then looked at Guan, urgently saying, "Junior brother Gu, evacuate. It's too dangerous here. Now all the outer gate cities and inner gate cities are in a great battle. There's a traitor in the supreme sect, using a teleportation array to send enemies in." Li didn't recognize Yang and I. Gu and his face turned serious. I can't abandon the Medicine Valley, and even if we escape, where can we go? Honestly, Li Ya's arrival both moved and troubled him. Guan wasn't actually panicked about the Demon Path invasion. He just didn't like having people around, making it inconvenient to take action. Isn't it easy to hide? We can't stay in the Medicine Valley, Li Ya said gravely. Guan shook his head. If you want to hide, you hide. Senior brother Li, you don't need to save me. I can't abandon my disciples. Mystic Valley had more than 20 servant disciples, making it difficult to move together. It was a good excuse for him. Li Ya was about to speak when Yang and I suddenly said, "Someone's coming." Li Ya instinctively looked up, as did Guan. They saw rolling thunderclouds forming a huge vortex in the sky, with a figure falling from it, aiming directly at Mystic Valley. The figure descended like a falling star, landing on a northern mountain peak, raising snow and mist. "Wuxin, you sure made it hard for me to find you. I didn't expect you to be hiding here. Where did you get the courage to infiltrate the Supreme Sect as a spy?" A contemptuous, cold laugh echoed through Mystic Valley, startling everyone to look at Wuxin. The disciples around Wuxin exclaimed and retreated. Wuxin looked up at the person on the peak with a grim face, eyes full of hatred. The person on the peak wore a blood-patterned black robe with disheveled hair and handsome features, but his brows were full of killing intent. His smile was hideous as he looked at Wuxin like a crawling insect. Bai Wu, First Layer of Nascent Soul Realm 203/790/980, Guan saw the result of the lifespan detection and remained unflustered. He dared to let the other party enter the valley, sensing their cultivation level wasn't a threat. He was just being cautious, verifying it. Li Ya frowned, looking at Wuxin from afar, a flicker of killing intent in his eyes. Wuxin seemed to know Bai Wu's fierceness, gritting his teeth. "I'll go back with you, just don't hurt anyone else." "That won't do. My orders are to kill everyone in the Supreme Sect, including insignificant servant disciples." Bai Wu licked his lips, taunting. "And who said I was taking you back? Today you will be buried with them. I can bring your head back." "Umph." A cold snort suddenly sounded, making Bai Wu's pupils shrink. He glanced over reflexively to see a woman in green appear next to him out of thin air, drawing her sword to slash. It was Yang and I. He leaped aside but still got slashed on the arm, blood splattering. Yang and I continued her assault, the two battling on the peak. Sword chi surged, and demonic chi spread like mist. Chapter 86 Elder Tian's Resolve. Demons overwhelming the sky. When Su Lian Demon Lord spoke, his thoughts had already floated inside the Supreme Sect. This great war concerned the Millennium Chi fortune of the Wanin sect, even its rise and fall. He could not wait to join the battle. However, before he could finish his sentence, he instinctively sensed the terrifying aura of danger and glanced sideways. Everything happened too quickly. Even he, a great cultivator with a void-crossing realm 4th layer cultivation level, had no time to react. In his eyes, a semi-transparent airflow was killing its way forward at an inconceivable speed, passing through the mountains and causing the heavens and the earth to appear distorted. His disciple standing in front of him was still looking at him, and all disciples who were building the array platform stopped. Everything fell into stillness. Only the aura of death approached rapidly. Boom! A mass of airflow tore through the sky and struck the plain between the mountains. Su Lian Demon Lord and a group of demon cultivators were directly pulverized into flying ash. A strong light burst forth, engulfing the surrounding mountains and devouring everything in its path. Above Mystic Valley, Yang and I, Li Ya, Bai Wu, and others who were fighting were startled, all pulling back and turning around to see. An impressive brilliance appeared on the horizon, and they felt a horrifying pressure coming, their faces changing dramatically. Li Ya hurriedly flew toward the forest below, quickly finding Guan was hiding behind a tree, pretending to shiver. Seeing him safe, Li Ya sighed in relief and was about to speak when a terrible gale blew from the distance. pushing the trees backward and causing the peaks to tremble violently. Leah hurried to Gu'an's side, shielding with his spiritual power. "What's happening?" Gu'an asked through gritted teeth, his tone full of fear. Li Ya's expression was grave. He said quietly, "Not sure, probably a great cultivator fighting." At this time, a series of prompts popped up before Gu'an's eyes. "You have successfully seized 47 years of Su Lian Demon Lord, Void Crossing Realm 4th Layer, Lifespan. You have successfully seized 35 years of Zhang Zhongchong, Core Formation Realm 2nd Layer, Lifespan. You have successfully seized 42 years of Qindyuan, Core Formation Realm 6th Layer, Lifespan. Altogether 26 people. The lowest cultivation was also in the Core Formation Realm, including 2 nascent Soul Realm cultivators. Sin. Gu'an secretly repented not because he wanted to go on a killing spree but because this group approached his Medicine Valley. The gale pressed on, lasting for a long time. After the storm calmed, Leah stood up straight. He whispered, "It seems we can only hide in Medicine Valley for now. There's danger everywhere. I told you." "First, follow me into the valley." Leah pulled Gu'an and walked into Mystic Valley. Just as they entered the valley, Xianxia descended from the sky, carrying a bloody head and Bai Wu's nascent soul hanging on her sword blade. At this moment, she was full of killing intent, making the disciples in the valley dare not approach. Xianxia threw Bai Wu's head in front of Wuxin, then shook her sword, shattering Bai Wu's nascent soul. She raised her sword toward Wuxin, coldly asking, "Do you have any last words?" Wuxin turned pale, trembling all over. "Stop!" Gu'an quickly rushed over to stand in front of Wuxin. Xianxia's eyes were cold. She said, "He is from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion. But he's been with us for decades and has never harmed us. He probably has no choice. Once this is over, it'll make him leave the Supreme Sect." Gu'an said through gritted teeth, determined. His words made Xianxia frown. Wuxin was very moved. He dared not look at the other disciples, wishing he could find a hole to hide in at that moment. Xianxia took a step forward, her sword tip almost reaching Gu'an's throat. Gu'an glanced at Leah, shouting, "Senior brother Li, say something." Leah frowned and walked over, pushing Xianxia's sword away, saying, "Let's give him that." Clearly, those demon cultivators had a grudge against Wuxin. Xianxia sheathed her sword and turned away. Gu'an turned to Wuxin and said, "Sorry, senior brother, we won't be able to keep you here in the future. Returning to the Thousand Autumn Pavilion will surely bring you torment. Find a place to hide and live under a different name. As long as you have goodness in your heart, no matter where you come from, you can be a good person." His sincere words made Wuxin tear up. He knelt with a thud, kowtowing to him. Li Ya's frown relaxed, sighing slightly. Xianxia glanced at Gu'an, her eyes showing surprise. Listening to Gu'an's words, it was evident that he had long known Wuxin's identity. And Wuxin seemed unwilling to be a cultivator of the Thousand Autumn Pavilion. Gu'an pulled Wuxin up and had him hide inside the house to avoid being recognized by other disciples from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion. Leah looked at Xianxia and transmitted a message. "Why are you here? Do you need to ask? Tell him, I don't want to fight for the throne. But he said he owed your mother and had to pass the throne to you. The Crown Prince is virtuous, talented, and has a 3-spirit root qualification. He is the ideal Crown Prince. It's useless to tell me this." The two communicated through voice transmission. Xianxia kept her eyes fixed on Gu'an, her thoughts unknown. Leah reminded through voice transmission, "Do not harm my junior brother, or I won't recognize anyone." Xianxia ignored him. After Bai Wu's attack, Mystic Valley fell silent. The disciples gathered in the courtyard, murmuring, all discussing Wuxin's identity. Following her gaze, countless monsters and evil ghosts like a black ocean approached from the horizon, densely packed, impossible to count. In front of the monster army was a black-robed man standing on a bone sword, holding a large black flag. G Family's Qilin Step, Heaven and Earth Path Gang, and heavenly dragon demon-suppressing form. At such a young age you have mastered so many powerful techniques. If you grow further, you will dominate the world single-handedly. The black-robed man's icy voice rang out, followed by a terrifying pressure enveloping all the world. She no longer used sorcery, but fought with her twin swords, cutting down one demon or evil spirit with each strike, her momentum like a rainbow. Soon, other disciples at the core formation realm came to support her, but their numbers were still insignificant compared to the demon army. Goo goo, the cry of the heaven-swallowing dark bird suddenly sounded, drowning out all the roars of the demons and evil spirits. Guwen felt annoyed. Why hasn't this creature been killed by the great cultivators of the supreme sect? Just then, Guwen suddenly sensed something. He turned his head and saw, 30 miles away, a resentful cat demon that had been cut in half fell into a garden area, its body thrashing in pain, crushing patches of medicinal herbs. His eyes narrowed, and a streak of sword chi shot out from the ground, killing the resentful cat demon. Looking up, he saw more demons falling like rain into the third medicine valley. Gu and his face instantly turned gloomy, and he moved his right foot to the side. At the same time, the battle in the sky remained intense. Gu Yu wielded a long whip, swinging it like a dragon. He shouted, "Everyone, do you have backers? Call for help quickly. My father is blocking the demons in the cold poison valley." The disciples fighting were all from the Gu and Ji families, each with a background. Without his urging, some had already taken out secret treasures, summoning reinforcements. In an instant, various rays of light and dazzling spirit lights burst forth, traversing the battlefield. In the midst of the battle, Ji Xiaoyu suddenly looked down, her face changed slightly. She saw green lights appearing on the mountains and rivers below her. These lights were rapidly growing, as if a vast green ocean would soon rise from the ground, a magnificent sight. In the distance, under a tree, Elder Tian, who was meditating, suddenly opened his eyes and turned to look towards the battlefield, his brow furrowed. Such an immense spiritual power. Is it from the Gu family or the Ji family? Elder Tian felt puzzled. He could sense that the vast spiritual power was meant to protect the Medicine Valley, so he wasn't worried and continued to practice. The green spiritual power covered half of the third Medicine Valley. Even the servant disciples near the pavilion area saw this from afar. What is that? Is this a spell? It seems to be protecting our Medicine Valley. It should be one of ours. What kind of battle is happening over there? At the edge of the third Medicine Valley, on a mountain peak, Shenzhen stood on a cliff. From her vantage point, she could overlook the vast sea of spiritual power. She immediately took out pen and paper and began to sketch. Suddenly, her pupils shrank sharply. The green spirit sea burst out countless streaks of green sword chi. An unimaginable number of green sword chi rose into the sky, an awe-inspiring sight. Swish, swish, swish. The sound of sword chi slicing through the air echoed through the heavens and the earth. The disciples of the Gu and Ji families were all shocked and dodged, but they soon realized that the sword chi was aimed at the demons. One by one, the demons and evil spirits were exterminated, the sky blooming with blood-colored fireworks, tragically beautiful. Ji Xiaoyu stopped, staring at the green sword chi around her, secretly astonished. What kind of sorcery is this? The spiritual power contained in these sword chi was beyond her reach. She felt that even her great-grandfather was not its match. The green sword chi did more than just rise into the air. It could also hunt down demons. In less than 10 breaths, the world fell silent. Countless streaks of green sword chi hovered in the air. Blood mist filled the sky but could not obscure their presence. The sword chi dissipated, and there were no more traces of demons or evil spirits. All the fighting disciples were stunned, staring blankly around. In the forest, Guwen exhaled softly. This wave of exertion took a toll, not just in casting the spell but also in controlling the sword chi to avoid harming the Supreme Sect disciples. Looking at the prompts that kept popping up, his face darkened. You successfully gained 2 years of life from the resentful cat demon, Tier 3. You successfully gained 1 year of life from the flying winged snake, Tier 2. You successfully gained 1 year of life from the greedy dog, Tier 2. All were 1 year or 2 years of life, and the proportion of 2 years of life was minimal. No sign of those evil spirits' life spans. What's going on? Guwen frowned deeply. He thought of the black banner in Suju's hand. Could it be that these demons weren't normal living beings? Thinking carefully, it made sense. This was the inner sect. How could the demon path bring so many demons and ghosts in? It could only be a powerful demon cultivator entering and summoning them with some form of sorcery. Even so, Guwen's lifespan still began to grow rapidly, given the sheer number of demons present. At that moment, Guwen suddenly felt an urge to slaughter all around him. This method is a quick way to gain lifespan. But he restrained this impulse. Excessive slaughter could bring disaster. He should stick to his previous path to power, with no enemies, and grow stronger discreetly. Because he still wasn't sure how far the highest realm in this mortal world was from him. Before becoming invincible, it was best to be cautious. From another perspective, if he saw an ant on the ground rapidly growing by devouring other insects, he would certainly kill it. Just as the ant couldn't see him in the sky, he couldn't see those in higher realms, like the Immortals. As long as the mystic yellow dragon energy skill could still be upgraded, it meant there were people who could see through its concealment sorcery. Stay steady, don't get reckless. Guwen relied only on growing flowers and medicinal herbs. Elder Tion was just a temporary name I used. My real name is LV Bayin. Have you heard of it? Instead of escaping, he chose to watch, leaving Guwen speechless. LV Baishan's aura rose constantly, while Lei Zhen's waned, the hall's shaking subsiding. After a while, LV Bayin completely drained Lei Zhen's spiritual power. After releasing him, Lei Zhen toppled back, rolling down the steps. Struggling, face full of pain, he raised a hand towards LV Bin, seemingly to plead for mercy. LV Bayin lifted his right hand, flicked his finger, and a bloody energy pierced Lei Zhen's forehead, dissipating his primordial spirit. Gathering spirit divine finger. Guwen sensed LV Baishan's aura had reached the 3rd level of unification realm, still overflowing with spiritual power. LV Baishan's cultivation far surpassed the 3rd level of unification realm. This power threatened the entire demon path. Guwen remained vigilant, fearing LV Baishan's possible attacks. After all, LV Baishan's son LV Xian was also deranged. LV Bayin ignored and Hao, turning to Guwen, smiling. What do you think? Do I qualify to eradicate the demon path now? Guwen answered nervously, You are the sect leader, of course. He stepped forward, standing before an Hao. Guwen, worship me as your master, and you'll be the next sect leader. LV Bayin commanded imperiously. Guwen was troubled, smiling bitterly. Sect leader, my talent is mediocre. No matter how you cultivate me, I want to earn the sect's approval. When you pass the position to me, chaos would ensue in the supreme sect. LV Bayin sneered, What if I transfer my cultivation to you before my time ends? Guwen was stumped by his words. But he couldn't take the sect leader role. Even mighty LV Bayin was forced into fake death to pass on leadership. He didn't want the trouble. Moreover, by the time LV Bayin neared his end, his cultivation would likely mean little to Guwen.